Okay.
I'm doing is that white people should have pride.
Okay.
So.
Okay, Kings. Hey, can you hear me, Destiny?
Yeah.
Okay. You got a camera for us today?
I guess. Just for you, I do.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Okay, let's get this party started. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Today, we're going to be doing a new format. I'll be pulling in challengers one at a time to debate Destiny on a specific topic for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. Destiny will give his opening thoughts on it, concisely and briefly, and then we'll get straight into it. The challenger in each case will have the last word, and they'll be able to tell you where they can find them. A link to everyone who is going to be in the show is in my YouTube description, so if you like any of them or you want to see more of them, that's where you can go to find them. And one more housekeeping thing before we begin. If you want your super chat read on stream, I'll do it between debates. But we're going with the $20 minimum today, okay? If it's off topic, I'll read it, but it'll be a $40 minimum.
Damn.
If you want me to say something off topic, you can, but you got to pay for the privilege.
Wait, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Is there no way to unmirror your camera in Discord? Why is it mirrored?
Mine or yours? Or,
Mine.
I do the mirroring through OBS. I just have it.
Or no, like my camera is mirrored in OBS. Is there a way to like turn off like mirroring, or does it just do that automatically?
You should be able to go to transform.
Transform.
Yeah, if you click on the display you're capturing in the OBS.
Wait, did I say OBS?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Discord. Is there a way in Discord?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I have no idea.
Fuck you.
I'm sorry.
I think it's only mirrored for you in Discord. That's how it is in Zoom. Oh, wait. Am I on the left or right side of my camera from your perspective?
From my perspective, you are on the right side of your camera.
Not stage right, like your right, like on the screen, like on your physical monitor. Am I on the left more or right more side?
Yeah, on my physical monitor, you're on the right more.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Forget it then. Okay.
Okay, we good?
Yeah.
You ready to go? Okay, the first topic is January 6th was an insurrection 100% led by Trump. Okay, Destiny, what are your initial thoughts? And then we'll just get into it. Go ahead.
Oh my God. Hold on.
Are we live right now?
Yeah.
We are live.
Do you want?
Just curious. Okay.
Do we want to introduce anybody or?
Yeah, this is Marte. Marte, tell people who you are, I guess.
I'm Marte Reyes. I'm an extension somewhat of the Crucible, and also I'm a IFBB professional bodybuilder, a blood sport debater, and I love talking politics and social issues and relationship dynamics. And you can find me on X as Mighty Marte, and also Instagram as The Real Mighty Mouse, and also YouTube on The Edge. You can find my channel and tune in later. So
Okay.
that's my intro.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. I gotcha. I'm here. Okay. Wait, and then are these supposed to be 30 minutes each? Is that how you're running this?
Yep.
Or?
Yep.
Jesus.
20 to 30 minutes each. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that Donald Trump had a clear plan to overthrow the U.S. election. I think that he had a clear structure in place to do it. He was basically faking electorate votes across the 7 states needed. He had a plan to pressure the vice president of the United States to accept the fake electorate votes. And then the goal was to use violence in January 6th in order to pressure lawmakers to accept the fake votes. Obviously, it ended up failing, but I would say that everything points pretty clearly to it being an insurrection. Like the plan is all like pretty open out there and everything else. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Marte. Why is that wrong?
So the reason why it's wrong is because we're not here to argue that Trump headed an insurrection, meaning like the electors. We're not here to argue the electors at all. So the elector scream is irrelevant completely. If Trump tried to seat them down, there was no riot. If there would be no riot, there'd be no quote unquote insurrection. So, I mean, so here's the thing though, Destiny's going to try to bog me down with this elector scheme, which is irrelevant and doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical. So going on to my point, I'm not trying to gish gallop here, but his statements are not a direct call to violence. As we've seen, the event was a disorganized protest at best, rather than a coordinated coup. Where's the coordination at? I didn't see a direct call for a riot or violence by Trump. Where was that at, Destiny?
So you say disorganized protest, but didn't they all go to the Capitol building and then try to break into the Capitol building to circumvent the certification of the election? And didn't they succeed in that? Or did that all just happen accidentally?
So here's the thing. Trump, and I quote, "I demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors," which, by the way, is not even really analogous to this whole point, "who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically protest." Where's the call for violence there?
So that's actually the perfect encapsulation of the entire election. When he says Congress should only seat the lawfully slated electors, he's talking about his fake ones. And when he says everybody's going to march over to the Capitol to make your voice heard, he's sending his people, not in a disorganized manner, but in a very organized manner, over to the Capitol building to pressure Congress to accept his fake electors.
So
And
once
that's
again,
exactly
the elector scheme isn't relevant to the insurrection, by the way. So when we're talking about the insurrection, you're failing to bring up any points as far as the motivation. Where's the motivation?
To what? For what?
For this so-called insurrection that you're seeing.
The motivation is to stay in office for 4 more years.
Well, no, the motivation for anybody is to stay in office. That's if they're running for Congress, governor, or anything like that. Everybody's motivated to do this. I'm talking about the insurrection. Where's the motivation for the specific insurrection?
The motivation is to pressure Congress to accept his fake electors so that he remains in office.
Right. I can go ahead and pressure anybody to do anything, but we're talking about commanding people to do an insurrection.
Okay, so here's a question. So help me with this, okay? So do you agree that everybody was there on January 6th because Trump called them to be there?
Well, as far as this, yes, a peaceful protest.
So he called them to be there. Do you agree that everybody went to the Capitol building afterwards because Trump said that they would all be marching to the Capitol?
He said to peacefully protest. Yes. Once again,
do you agree that they all went to the Capitol building because Trump told them to go to the Capitol?
Not fitting the guidelines for any insurrection. We're talking about a peaceful protest.
I'm just asking a simple question. Did Trump tell them all to go to the Capitol building?
He said to march over to the Capitol building. Yes.
So he called all of them there on January 6th. They all marched to the Capitol building. Okay. They broke through the barricades and they started to break into the Capitol building to delay the certification of the vote. Did Trump make any effort until Ashley Babbitt got shot and killed? Did Trump make any effort to intervene when he was notified that the Capitol was being overrun?
Hold on, let's back up. You're talking about making an effort. Well, let's get past this first point. When did he state to break past the barriers or do any of this other stuff?
I never said that. I'm asking, did he make any effort to intervene once the barriers were broken?
So there's a timeline here. So he did text right after this, matter of fact, to go home in peace as soon as he could, urging rioters to go home in peace. The critics vaguely argue this was too late and included a sympathetic language like "we love you," things like this. But once again, this wasn't direction. This wasn't direction.
No one is talking about direction. I'm just asking, was it not the case that the Capitol was broken into and for hours there was a riot there before Trump told people to go home?
Destiny, my first point was intention and motivation. Can we get past this first?
No, you can't even answer my simple question, so I don't know if there's any point in this. So far you agree that everybody was there because Trump called them to be there on January 6th. They marched to the Capitol building because... What?
I had a simple question. Where's the intention and motivation? We're getting past this. Now you want me to ask your questions without...
I don't know what you mean, the intention and motivation. The intention was to circumvent the lawful electoral vote slating process. That was what they wanted to do, and he did it. He managed to circumvent it for some time.
Entailment of proving this. Can you show me in any way where this was tied to a disruption? Meaning, like, if you're talking about this specifically, can you point to where he instructed people to commit any treasonous insurrection activity? Period. You're failing time and time again.
Hold on. What is my standard of proof here? Do I have to show him saying you guys need to commit treason?
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
No, wait. I need you to answer that question. Does Trump have to say, I need you guys to commit treason?
He doesn't have to say this for a riot.
Okay, so then when Trump's final words in his speech were, and we fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. How am I supposed to interpret that?
His final words were marching over to the Capitol building and peacefully patriotic protest. You're leaving this out, Destiny.
Sorry, hold on. I'll read the whole last program. No, that fight peacefully thing, that's not his last words at all. These are all of his, this is the end of his speech. And we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Our exciting adventures and boldest endeavors have not yet begun, my fellow Americans, for our movement, for our children, and for our beloved country. And I say that despite all that's happened, the best is yet to come. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give, the Democrats are hopeless. They never vote for anything, not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you. So my question, one question, and then you can ask me whatever. Wait, one question. Just let me ask one question, and then you can ask whatever you want. I'll answer it. Can you tell me, after he ends a speech like that, saying "fight like hell and take your country back," when all of them walk to the Capitol, or when all of them walk to the Capitol building afterwards, and then they break in and they fight like hell to take their country back, was that just a coincidence?
Destiny, I know you like to gish gallop right now.
I'm not gish galloping. I just read a quote and asked a question, but you're not going to answer it because you know the answer.
Quotes right now. This is what you're doing right now. I'm trying to answer your question right now, and you're just talking over me. I'm asking for the inciting of violence. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard anything as far as like inciting a riot. I'm not hearing about tearing down buildings, killing anybody, or doing any destructive activities. All I'm hearing is a powerful speech by Trump that could, a matter of fact, I'll even concede, let's say that he was talking about a riot. Does this fit the definitional terms of what an insurrection is?
Yes, but we're not talking about a riot either. But also, so then you're telling me then that it was just a coincidence that after this speech, it's a coincidence that... It's a coincidence that after this speech, everybody went down to the Capitol, broke into the Capitol building, and delayed the certification of the vote, which is exactly why they were there to protest. That was all a coincidence.
You know what, that would happen during a riot too, right?
I'm just going to keep repeating the exact same question until he answers that. I'm just letting you know. But that's okay. We can do this for the next 20 minutes.
Well, technically, the last words he said was "go home in peace," literally.
I'm talking about the speech, and I'm going to repeat my question. So it was a coincidence then that the people who were gathered there on January 6th to protest the certification of the vote, that were told by Trump to fight like hell, that walked down to the Capitol, that they broke in and they got through and they prevented or they delayed the certification vote. That was a coincidence.
I would say yes, this can coincidentally happen in any riot situation or any grouping situation. This can happen after a Knicks game, after they lose in a basketball game. Things like this happen. If we say, oh, we're going to fight like the Fighting Irish, and it's going to happen.
Wait, you said like a basketball game.
Go ahead, Marte. Get to your question.
The question today is if Trump led an insurrection, not if he led a riot, not if he led a group. I'm trying to hear the motivation and intention. I'm not hearing any of that through the speech. You're failing to prove that.
What were they there to protest? Why were they there on January 6th?
So right now we're talking about a system in place that people disagreed with.
What system? What were they there on January 6th to protest?
An electorate system.
So the president of the United States brought them there to protest against the electorate system, and then all of those people that were sent by the president to the Capitol building that ended up delaying the certification of the vote, those two things aren't connected at all to you. That was just a coincidence.
I mean, can you point out where the motivation was to cause violence or a riot?
Yes, the words we fight like hell.
We fight through votes. We fight through free speech.
You can't fight through votes. The election was over.
Well, hold on. No, there's still a vote, meaning our speech. We vote in the way that we talk, in the way that we walk, in the way that we protest. So there's still, quote unquote, hypothetical votes that are still happening through our presence, through means of protesting and walking. So that's what I'm referring to when I say voting. So not only do we vote this way, we vote by our dollars when we buy things. So what I'm saying, though, is that I'm still waiting for proof or any evidence that this was incited by Trump and led by Trump, even though he spoke to peacefully conduct this and march this towards the Capitol. I'm still not hearing this. You saying simply fight, fight, fight. This could be a fight through our voices, through marching, through protest, which is peacefully. I'm not hearing any of this stuff. I'm not hearing intentional motivation.
So then tell me, what type of evidence would you need? Would you need Trump to say, you need to go to the Capitol building and break into the Capitol building and commit treason? Is that what you need?
I mean, that would basically help, but I don't see
that would only help.
Related to that.
Can I ask, what short of that would you consider evidence, Marte?
You mean my threshold as far as like what would you consider? I would say I need you to go ahead and do them in bad, specifically them. Meaning like I need you to go ahead and just put a stop. Like meaning like let me clarify this, right? Let me offer a clarifier. Something akin to creating treason. Any language as far as causing treason, meaning overturning an election. I don't hear any language as far as
Wait, any treason like overturning election? So when he said in the speech, okay, you look back there all the way to the Washington Monument, it's hard to believe, we must stop the steal, and then we must ensure that such outrageous election fraud never happens again and can never be allowed to happen again. What does he mean when he says stop the steal there?
Meaning that there's an investigative process that's happening right now.
No, sir, I'm sorry. No, it's January 6th. He's lost the election, and they're just doing the certificate that we're past that.
Hey, hold on. Do you think an investigative process stops after an election? No.
They didn't, and they lost their cases. They didn't find anything. Yes, it stops at that point. The transition of power is going to happen.
Hold on. Do you think that there can be a separation between the protest and Trump, meaning that his intentions were to march peacefully, but meanwhile, the public is pissed and chaotic disarray, saying we need to stop this, and
they're pissed because Trump make them pissed. They're not translating. Trump makes them pissed. Okay, when Trump says all of us here today do not want to see our election victory, what victory? He lost, stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done, and that's what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country's had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. What are they trying to stop there? What are they doing there? They're going to use their speech?
So motivational speech to incite people to peacefully march towards the Capitol. I mean, this sounds like a speech to question maybe an investigative process or fact-finding process, even by the public, because we're inclined to question government activities, whether or not an election was legitimate or not. This can happen post-election. Now, if a group comes together and wants to maybe riot, he didn't state riot. He didn't state cause an insurrection or incite
just
treasonous
real quick,
activities.
you acknowledge how unbelievably intellectually bankrupt it is for you to keep saying he didn't use the word riot. He didn't use the word treason over and over again. You know that it never works that way, right?
Hey, even if we throw this language out, was there even language adjacent to, causing a disruption as far as the buildings?
Fight like hell or you'll lose your country? I feel like fight like hell or you'll lose your country is a pretty big one, yeah?
Yeah, fight like hell. I can walk down the street in basically the ABs that happened by Planned Parenthood in March and fight like hell that way with picket signs. Well, so it's like that's interpretation. You're assuming that every single person in the crowd was like, oh, we're just going to cause some treasonous event towards the Capitol. Like,
I mean, they all assumed that, didn't they? Didn't they assume that when they broke into the Capitol?
Okay, let's say they assumed this. Can you at least demonstrate how Trump told them to do this?
Why, if Trump didn't tell them to do it, why didn't Trump stop them when they were doing it?
Okay, once again, we're at an impasse. When I ask you during this whole debate where the inciting of this was, when I'm saying that, so let me go ahead and give you a hypothetical. Let's say I tell you to walk down to the store to get groceries. Did I tell you how to walk to the store? Did I tell you which avenue to take or anything like this? When I say peacefully protest, patriotically protest towards the Capitol, is he telling them how to do this?
Well, it would depend on his action. Okay, let's try another hypothetical. Let's say there's
a translation error.
Wait, hold on. We're gonna play a hypothetical game. If I walk to a pool and I see that there's a child that just fell into the pool and the child is drowning, and I don't do anything to stop the drowning child, do you think I have some moral responsibility there for not intervening?
Right, but you're talking about maybe a delay. He did this nonetheless, and you could say, well, maybe there's a delay. I'm gonna ask the
same question when you're done rambling and trying to obfuscate. Do you have a moral responsibility to save the child when you watch the child drowning?
Your question right now. Everybody has an opportunity.
I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying if you walk to a pool and you see a child walk in and they're drowning, do you have a moral responsibility to help the child?
Regardless if it's me or not, everybody has a responsibility. This applies to me or not. So if
do you think that responsibility?
Delayed action does that? Okay, so if I have a delayed action,
do you think that responsibility? Do you think that responsibility would be even greater for a lifeguard?
Destiny, if I have a delayed reaction, does that prove incitement of said riot or said insurrection?
If you said that if you said that you hated the kid and you told the kid to go play in the pool, yeah, it might actually. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not what happened in this case.
He did. He told them to go play in the pool. He didn't tell them to drown. He told them to go play in the pool. And then when they started drowning, he didn't stop it. You don't think that looks really suspicious?
Yeah, great. You can say this. But here's the thing, though. I'm still not hearing a correlation between inciting and a motivation.
You can't say correlation. I've already won on the correlation ground. He said words. People walked to the Capitol and they committed a riot that broke into the Capitol to delay a lawful process. So you're the one that's fighting now on the causal chain, and you're saying that it was all a coincidence.
Doesn't make any sense. By the way, back to this, Destiny. I'm telling you, if he has a delayed reaction and said it nonetheless, all you're doing is mincing words and saying, well, he just didn't do it fast enough. That doesn't mean anything. If I do something slow, it doesn't mean that I incited it or my motivation or intention was to cause this.
If he had something, no, because if he had something to gain by dragging his feet, which he did, and if when the insurrection was happening, the only thing he and Giuliani were doing were making phone calls to lawmakers to try to certify the fake electorate slates, yeah, it kind of seems like he wanted it to happen. He was facilitating it.
You're presuming to know somebody's mind by saying this is why he drug his feet and this is why he has incentive to do this.
Are you assuming we can never figure out what's in somebody's mind?
In this case, can you demonstrate why Trump, that he dragged his feet on purpose? Can you demonstrate that?
Yeah, by the phone calls that he was making to lawmakers to get them to delay the certification of the vote.
You mean after or before or during?
During, when the insurrection was happening and Trump was capitalizing on it, rather than doing something, which he's commanded to do as president of, we now see he sent the troops to D.C., so apparently he can do it, right? Even when the mayor doesn't want it, he's got the troops there now. Why didn't he send them there during January 6th?
So if there were FBI agents in the crowd working for who? Who are in, let's just say FBI agents were working in the crowd.
Well, they'd
who
be
are they
working
employed by at the time?
Donald
were
Trump.
They working on behalf of Trump?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing, though. If I have a delayed reaction, nonetheless, I'm going to get off this topic right here because this is moot. So if we're talking about the subject about a delayed reaction, that still doesn't prove.
Oh, you forgot that Trump was in office. That's why you moved on from that.
No intent or motivation. This implies that there's no intent or motivation. We can go ahead and separate the two. It doesn't mean that, the reason why he delayed this, you still can't prove this. It doesn't really make any sense. I don't see, because he did this and he cited anything from his sources and saying he slowed his feet or dragged his feet because of this. This could have just been a number of errors. This happens. Still, back to the
Excuse me, he was literally tweeting as it was going on. How can that be a number of errors if he was tweeting?
Okay, so he was tweeting. A delayed tweet, same thing. Still, if he's tweeting this and still tweeted, I need you to go ahead and peacefully protest, but just like the same by saying, God bless you all, I love you, and calls this a fraudulent election before this, and is saying, hey, I need you guys to cease this later. It still doesn't promote the promotion of this. It still doesn't say, hey,
if rioters were outside the White House chanting, hang Mike Pence, and then Donald Trump just tweets 10 minutes later, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts. Those are his fake electors, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones, which they were asked to previously certify. The USA demands the truth. This is already an hour and a half after the breach into the secured grounds of the Capitol. It was 10 minutes after they had already breached into the building, and it was 10 minutes after there was already video footage of people saying, hang Mike Pence.
Here's the thing, though. What's your definition of insurrection?
No, I'm good on that. I'm good on this one.
We are at the 20-minute mark. Marte, you will have the last word, so go ahead, give your closing thoughts, tell people where they can find you, and
these are my closing thoughts. My definition is a group of people planning a serious attempt to overthrow the government using violence. He has not once demonstrated this during this debate. He hasn't described a plan by President Trump or people to use violence. Once again, throughout this whole debate, I was listening the whole time and try to listen to where Trump was telling them to use violence by, mind you, only specific people, certain subset of individuals, which are small, brought guns. Mind you, everybody, this is the most armed nation in the world right now, mind you, and everybody has two-way rights, because when we have, I would say a protest and people bring guns, doesn't mean that we're going to go ahead and use this for an insurrection. That doesn't make any sense. So, by the way, he still hasn't proved that there's basically an incentive or Trump saying, I'm telling you to use violence towards the government. And not only this, a serious attempt to overthrow the government using violence by a planned event or a coup or some treasonous way. This language hasn't been used the whole time. During him or during this debate, I haven't seen from my opponent at all at once. You can find me on YouTube at On The Edge, and you can find me on Twitter at Mighty Marte, and also The Real Mighty Mouse on Instagram.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and we're gonna let you go. Okay, buddy?
Yeah.
Jesus.
What a start. What a start. I do have polls that I'm going to be running in my YouTube chat after these and near the end of these, and you can vote on who you think did better in this one. Okay, so far we're looking at, with 101 votes, Destiny is at 75% on who won the question, and Marte is at 101%. Well, it's going up and down as we speak. So, yeah, okay. These are bite sides, so even if it gets a little frustrating or a little annoying, that's why we keep it short and sweet. Okay. So the next topic we got coming up, gang, is going to be the SARS-CoV zoo, whether it was from a lab or from a zoonautical event. Let's bring on your next guy. Okay, hello.
Hello.
You got a camera for us, sir.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, tell people who you are, what you do, all that.
Yeah, I'm Deej. I orbit Destiny I orbit Wix sometimes, and right now I post on Twitter.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. So today the topic is SARS-CoV-2 almost certainly came from a zoonotic spillover. There is no reason to think it was leaked from a lab. Destiny, give your opening thoughts, and then we'll get into it. Same rules, same thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's basically my opening. I mean, the pattern of infections all spreads from the wet market. We have good epidemiological and genetic evidence to see that it originated from the wet market. There's literally zero evidence whatsoever that it even came from the lab at all. I don't even know how, short of like some insanely secretive plot that nobody knows about, there's literally no explanation for how it could have originated from a lab in Wuhan.
Yeah, go ahead, Deej. Take it away.
So your stance really is that you think that there is no evidence to suggest that it could have stemmed from the lab.
To suggest, there might be a couple things that cut in favor, but generally speaking, no, all the evidence points towards zoonotic spillover.
And how high, when we're looking at the standard of evidence that we have pointing towards it being a zoonotic spillover, how highly do you rate the level of evidence that we have to confirm that that is?
Well, confirm, I don't think we'll ever know, but I'd say 90 to 95%. Basically, it's 100% unless there is there would have to be a whole planned, contrived plot from Chinese operatives to take that virus and then leak it to the wet market on their own without anybody knowing about it, and there's no evidence of it.
So, sorry, I just want to make sure that I understood what you said. So basically, you think that the only way that it could have come from the lab is if China intentionally leaked it from the lab?
Well, took it to the wet market and leaked it, but even that theory would have a lot of problems that would be difficult to contend with.
Okay, and how, I guess, because I'm not gonna get into some of the facts if we agree on these.
Sure.
The virus, do you know how the spillover occurred in the wet market?
I think the theory is that there were two separate spillover events, most likely from the raccoon dog stalls in the southwest portion, I think, of the Wuhan wet market, the Wuhan seafood market.
And why is that the most likely theory?
When you take samples from the area, all of the epidemiological evidence seems to center around stalls that are located in that part of the market. They're the most that test positive for samples that are confirming the SARS-CoV-2 genome, because all of the cases, the very first ones, of the first 5, I think 3 or 4 had direct links to the wet market. The first person I think that they theorized was sick was a wet market worker, and then all of the cases spread out about as you would expect epidemiologically from the wet market.
So, are you suggesting that we know the intermediary host for the
No, I don't
virus?
think we do, but I don't think we need to. We don't know the intermediary host, for instance, for SARS-CoV-1 as well.
That's not true. We know what it is.
We don't know the spillover event for SARS-CoV-1. We absolutely don't.
No, we do.
We don't.
We found that out within 6 months.
We don't.
The intermediate host for SARS-CoV-2 was civet minks.
We don't know that either.
No, we do.
Okay.
Can you
can
provide-
source me after,
okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and... do we want to do sourcing on this call?
I mean, I'd be curious because I've never seen that,
Yeah,
and
go
I've
for
read
it.
a lot of papers on
Send
this at
them.
this point, so that's pretty crazy. When you say that is the intermediary host, you mean that the spillover event was found, or you mean that this is a host that can facilitate the virus and transfer it to humans?
Yeah, so like if you just do a search for SARS-CoV-2 intermediary host, it's going to say any intermediary host is not found. If you do a SARS-1 search for the same terms, you'll find that we do know what the intermediary host for SARS-CoV-1 was.
Oh,
you
okay.
explain
And
Sorry,
that
hold
was
on.
discovered within 6 months.
Can you explain it
Wait,
for
my
the
bad. Hold
audience?
on. Yeah, sorry. Okay, I think you're correct there. I spoke too quickly. What I said is we don't have the spillover event for SARS-CoV-1. We might have, in retrospect, found the intermediary host, but we don't have the exact spillover event for when it occurred.
Correct. And but that intermediary host is, I would say, not trivial, because that is the explanation of how it jumped from the animals into humans. Right now, the only evidence that we have, like going to what you said about them thinking raccoons being a potential vector, is the raccoons were present with the same virus that the humans had, but that was a dead culture of the virus and could have actually just been spread from human to the raccoons.
So it could have been that was initially theorized, but when people go back and they do the tests on these things to figure out where they came from, like in animal stalls where there was the highest concentration of the virus found, it was where there were like these raccoon dogs. It was in the southwest parts of these stalls. In other animal samples where there were no humans present, they found very little or no SARS-CoV-2. And in other stalls where there was more human DNA present, they found more SARS-CoV-2. So the idea that the SARS-CoV-2 was coming from someplace beyond those raccoon dogs, I just haven't seen that. There's no theory or evidence of how it could have come from any other place, and it all seems to point to the raccoon dogs.
Would you say that we have, because one of the main criticisms...
Also, wait, I'm sorry. Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry, 'cause this is actually...
Go ahead.
You're telling me that for SARS-CoV-1, we found a 100% genetic match for nucleotide sequence DNA, or for RNA. We found a 100% sequence match for SARS-CoV-1 in an animal, and also for for the same virus that infected humans, for SARS-CoV-1?
So it's been a little bit since I looked at it, so I don't remember exactly how they determine. What I do know is the confirmed jump from what animals initially had bred the disease in them that made it possible to pass from humans was confirmed to have been that species for
Okay.
SARS-CoV-1.
I would try, I'd be curious to find it because my understanding, my research, the two closest strands to SARS-CoV-2 were Banal52 and RTG13. These had a 96.8 and a 96.1% match respectively. I thought that the closest nucleotide sequence match, like percentage similarity for SARS-CoV-1 was like 95%. But we can agree to disagree, I guess, on that fact if you want. I don't know if it's necessarily consequential that, but I was not aware that there was the crossover species and the exact SARS-CoV-1 virus had been identified in an animal species, but I'll look for it later, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, I don't have like I'll be honest, I didn't do new research for this. I'm going based off of back what I was researching in 2023 roughly.
sure.
So if we want to get down to the scientific names of things, I'm not going to be that strong in that because
Yeah, that's fine.
it's whatever.
I'm curious then, because I understand that it's possible to try to nibble around the edges for the zoonotic spillover. Can you give me any conceivable theory where it would have gotten from the lab to the wet market where no lab worker was ever shown to be infected and no spread of the virus ever happened from around the lab? And why did it start spreading from the wet market? Can you give me a story that can incorporate those facts?
I don't agree with the facts on that. We know that number one, the lab was kind of under hot water and not investigation, but criticism for poor procedures around leaking the containment. And also, there were multiple staff workers who did get sick with symptoms that all we have is that they were sick because China pretty much deleted all the records about what their specific symptoms were. And those individuals did have a connection to the wet market. They did go there. To answer
Just a
your
real
question,
quick thing, because we have a factual disagreement here. So my understanding is the serum was available to test for these people for seropositivity for SARS-CoV-2. They were tested later on, those samples. None of them tested positive for it. And we do know the symptoms for a lot of those sick workers. That I think one guy had a broken arm. A couple had some symptoms that were pneumonia-like, and then one guy had a cold or flu. But they tested all of these later on. None of these people had COVID. And if you would believe that they had COVID, it would have been 2 months before the outbreak. So how can you account for the cryptic transmission where just a couple people were infected, but it didn't have an outbreak anywhere besides the wet market, which is where it eventually outbreak from. Yeah.
So when were those tests on the subjects done, and who was performing them?
The seropositivity tests would, I want to say they were done sometime in 2020. But when a lab worker gets sick, you take a blood sample and then you keep it on storage so you can test it later if you need to or whatever. But none of those people nobody's ever tested positive from any of the lab workers for COVID.
Well,
and even
I mean, a lot of people tested negative for COVID that did still have COVID as well. Like
well, there might have been people who were asymptomatic who didn't go to the hospital, maybe. But for people who were tested,
that's totally plausible as well. They were asymptomatic, went to the wet market, and then spread the disease.
Sure, but then what I'm trying to account for is how is it that they got sick at the lab, didn't spread it anywhere else, then got all the way to the wet market, spread it at the wet market, went home, didn't spread it anywhere else, and then it started to all spread from the wet market. How is that possible?
Well, there's a pretty simple reason, which is like you're more likely to spread the disease when you're touching and handling things that people are eating. So obviously, if they frequent the wet market, they have the disease, right? Similar to
frequent the wet market.
Hold on. Because
let Deej go. Go ahead, Deej.
Okay.
Yeah, because if we're gonna say that, well, one person, getting the disease in the hospital, traveling a couple of miles to the wet market and introducing it to the wet market is not likely, how is it likely that the disease would have traveled thousands of miles from the initial reservoir along a whole animal trade in a whole bunch of different cities before getting to Wuhan without any of those places first exhibiting COVID-like symptoms?
Yeah, so that explanation is actually super simple. And the reason is because that animal trade is still illegal and it's done via smuggling in China. So the conditions are pretty dirty, but people try to keep it secret. These are literally things that are being smuggled from the South China Cave area where you're trying not to get caught by officials, and then animals are moving from cage to cage. There might have been workers along that trade route that maybe did get asymptomatic infections, possibly, but it's far more believable to think that somebody that's working in animal smuggling might be either a little more careful or a little more isolated because they know that they're dealing with bad shit and they don't get caught by authorities, versus a guy at a lab got sick and then traveled 12 kilometers to a wet market, only spread it there, went back to his home wherever he lived, and never was a super spreader from any other location. They just super spread at the wet market, where it's not like they're going there and touching everybody else's food and giving it to other people.
Well, but I mean, you could argue all of the cases were linked back to the wet market, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the only place that the spread occurred was at the wet market. It just means that the original source
was the wet market.
So if let's say one of the researchers, right, they come home, they kiss their wife, they spread it to their wife, and then the researcher then goes to the market, or the researcher's wife then goes to the market, it's very likely, in fact highly probable, that the wet market would still be seen as the initial threat vector because it is a circumstance where the disease can propagate more easily.
Why would the disease propagate more easily in a wet market than on a train to the wet market or in any of the number of intermediary stops? Also, I don't even think there's any evidence that links any of the people at the lab to the wet market. But let's assume they did go. Let's assume they went right from the lab right to the wet market. How do they take a 12.1 kilometer journey, however many train stops, train rides, train stations, internal, and don't spread it to a single person? And then at the wet market, they spread it to a ton of people. And then they take the train all the way back, don't spread it to anybody, go home, go back to the lab. How?
Well, they're researchers. Maybe they had a car, right?
So they...
I mean, you asked, we can quibble over all the potential ways that this could occur, but your stance was there was no way that it could have spread from.
Yeah, because first of all, I don't think because one, we're already on a hypothetical where there's no seropositivity for any of them involved. There's zero evidence that anybody at that lab was infected. Not only is there zero evidence, there's literally pictures of them going out to dinner 3 or 4 or 5 days after the first infection starts showing up at the wet market. So they're sick, they're spreading it to some people at the wet market, but nobody else. They have a car that they drive right to the wet market. There's no evidence of that, by the way, whatsoever, that any of them were traveling to the wet market. They didn't take any public transport anywhere, even though it's insanely common in China. And they didn't spread it to any of their friends. That's just, it's so impossible to believe all of those coincidences in a row rather than it came from a wet market.
Sure. I would agree with you if China was being transparent, but what was China's initial first response to the disease, and then what was their response even after the initial outbreak and it had spread? And also, I would like to see how you would compare their response to SARS-CoV-2 versus how they responded to SARS-CoV-1.
Well, their first response was to deny it, and now their current response is to say that it came from the United States.
That is one So they did put out a white paper, and they said that it potentially could have come from the United States, but to pay attention to what the international community and scientists say.
Yep, and all the international community and scientists, all the research, the scientific research is all focused more and more and more on the wet market. Like all of the evidence is continuing to point in that direction.
You're right. Actually, yes, you're 100% right. They all do focus on
No, not focus as in biased that way. I mean, all of it's pointing in that direction. There is not a single piece of scientific evidence that's pointing in a different direction.
So I heavily disagree with you there, because initially, even during the time when China did allow WHO researchers in to look at their curated evidence, it was considered racist and a conspiracy theory among the scientific community to promote the lab leak theory. So kind of this idea, when the evidence was hot, that they were looking equally into all potential sources of where it could have come, just isn't really true. It was heavily politically biased.
It was heavily biased. I agree.
Against even considering the lab leak.
Incorrect. That's a very American Western perspective. It was against considering China as a source. Because if we want to say that China intervened, I agree with you. That's why we have no live animal samples. Because one of the things that China did is they went to that wet market and they slaughtered and removed every single live animal. The only epidemiological evidence we can point to is the remains and stuff that exist in the sewage drains outside of the stalls. All those animals were slaughtered before they let people into test. And they even removed the characters on the boards that said live animal sales when there were people taking pictures there.
So that makes kind of the claim that there's the claim that we definitely know that the disease transferred from, say, the raccoon dogs to humans isn't actually that strong, because the evidence that would allow the scientific community to make a strong claim for that has been deleted. And that's
it hasn't been deleted.
Problem.
They couldn't know, because there's still a ton of evidence in the drains. You could link it back.
Yes, a lot of dead animals that could have literally just had the virus in their DNA, in the same way that if I had COVID and got in a car accident, I'd still test positive for COVID.
Yeah, but all of the cases spread from and originate from, and the density all spreads out from the wet market.
Yeah, sure, but that's a lot of it is natural due to the conditions in the wet market, making it a playground for the diseases to spread.
The wet market
that's part of the reason why we criticize wet markets in general.
No, that's not a reason why. The reason why is because they're bringing in animals that are infected with diseases that can likely spill over to humans. There was a researcher that went in 2014 that literally took a picture of the exact stall that the raccoon dogs were kept in, and said this might be a really bad deal in the future, and that's literally the exact same stall where SARS-CoV-2 came from.
Sure, but here's the thing, right?
But wait, but then also wait real quick, just on that claim, you keep saying that the wet market is an ideal place to spread it from. No, it's not. Wet market was a giant open air, basically, or if it wasn't open air, the ceilings and tents were really, really tall. It probably would spread better in hospitals, which it did. Probably spread better in supermarkets, which it did. Better in malls, in any high density area. I don't know why we would assume that wet markets are the best place for it to start spreading.
Well, I mean, okay, if we're going by U.S. standards of how we handle food, I'd agree. But again, to your point, right? COVID can transmit from a human to an animal and then back into a human. We know that's part of the research that we have done. We know that it can do that, and it did do that, right? People contracting it from their pets or from somebody else's pet. So it's kind of, I don't necessarily want to get bogged down on whether the wet market is an ideal condition or not. COVID could very easily spread in that environment and situation, which is why, whether it was introduced via a bat or whether it was introduced by a human who spread it to an animal, it would spread similarly within those conditions.
I don't disagree with that, but that's why I'd said we would have to have a theory that can account for somebody getting the virus at the lab, taking it over to the wet market, not being infected themselves, and not infecting a single other person in any other area. And we would also have to account for a whole bunch
possible.
I agree. That's why I didn't say 100%, but that's an extraordinary claim. And not only is it extraordinary because we would have to have a whole plot to do that, which would be hard to explain why would you even do that, but we would need a whole plot for that to happen. We would also have to explain how did they create a brand new virus using a unique viral backbone, using amino acids that weren't predicted by any known computer model, on a virus that all of the research for this had been posted and was being published for so long. How did they do all of this under wraps for so long? There's so many weird scientific things you'd have to account for. It seems way easier to just believe it was probably a zoonotic spillover event, especially given how close the ancestors we found in other South China caves were to the SARS-CoV-2 original leak.
So wait, are you suggesting that it would be more difficult for a black budget research team to like force engineer a virus to adopt certain traits. When we have a virus that's similar to a virus, then like that's less plausible than it naturally evolved from a virus into what was SARS-CoV-2.
Yes. Using a novel backbone that wasn't published or documented by any other researcher? Correct. And then having the amino acids that bind in the cells that weren't predicted by computer models that made it pretty adaptive to humans and allowed it to spread so fast. Yeah, I think that the evidence for it being some black market research thing, there's basically no evidence to support that theory at all. You would have to make a whole bunch of very crazy assumptions.
I mean, if you ask people in the, towards the end of World War II, if the U.S. was developing nuclear weapons, there wouldn't be any evidence to suggest that other than tin pot conspiracy brain stuff.
That's
right?
true, but I don't even know how many people knew anything about atomic physics at that point in time. Now we have cell phones, we have labs that are there to study things specifically. We've got tons of epidemiological data. Like, there's tons of reasons why people know things now that aren't necessarily comparable to the Manhattan Project.
So you think that like all the secret research that the U.S. or China does is known to the public, and if we don't have evidence of it, we can't assume that they're doing these things?
No, not all research, but it depends on the type of research you're doing. Like, if you were to tell me that the United States does secret research on like propulsion missile systems that nobody else knows about, that's possible and probably likely. It's something that only the U.S. government can probably fund or do. There's not a high consumer interest in doing it. Like, that makes sense. But if you tell me like the United States government has figured out like a novel way to put together microprocessors in a way that no one else figured out, I would say that's impossible. No shot. There's way too much commercial interest and international interest in this thing in order for some government with a whatever fuck off budget in order to figure that out. It would never happen. So with this particular research, like, this is research the whole world is doing. People are publishing papers on it all the time. The idea that there's some black market budget to figure out this stuff, and then also the lab conditions for that black market are so bad, and it's in a publicly like known about lab, and then they also leak the virus and nobody, like, it's just so many things to believe there. Again, on a novel viral backbone.
I mean, we're talking about China, right? This type of thing isn't really like unique to China when it comes to like secret project leaks and also poor like containment procedures and people following procedures. Like for instance, if I were a Chinese, really anybody in any position, it's historically documented that they inflate and deflate numbers when it is compelling for them, right? Mm-hmm. And also, like, there's a reason we offshored this research to China. But for obviously, like,
well, we didn't offshore it.
We weren't researching this.
We do research it here as well, but part of the reason why it's in China is because they have a lot of the epidemiological stuff. The origins for a lot of these viruses are from bat populations, like huge bat populations.
So I guess one additional angle I want to tackle is
we got 5 minutes, by the way. Go ahead.
Okay, why do you think China's response to SARS-CoV-2 has been so drastically different from how it was for SARS-CoV-1?
I don't know exactly what the response was for SARS-CoV-1. For SARS-CoV-2, I mean, like, not to be racist, but like eating fucking cats and dogs and having like wet markets and shit for China is a pretty humiliating and embarrassing thing. Like, that's not a proud part of their culture. They have every incentive to cover that up. They tried to in the market.
That was true during the early 2000s as well.
Sure. I don't know about SARS. I don't know the specific steps that China took related to SARS-CoV-1.
Okay, so I'll just explain it then. So China and SARS-CoV-1, basically they did suppress like the initial wave, try to suppress that the disease existed and that, oh, it's just the flu, whatever. But then after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they were extremely transparent, giving the WHO literally everything that they needed, live samples, etc., to be able to identify the origin of the virus, which is part of the reason why we were able to identify an intermediate host within 6 months. What's interesting, too, is that it actually took longer to find the reservoir of the virus for SARS-CoV-1 than it did for SARS-CoV-2. Despite the fact that China was more transparent, and one...
I would have to... So I don't know how important the fact that we did not find the original crossover for SARS-CoV-1, and we didn't find the original SARS-CoV-1 in any animal population. I would be curious to see where that comes, because my understanding is that's just never the case. I'm looking at this now. I don't think that we ever found that original crossover. I think the closest we got was like less than 94%, maybe. In terms of like when they were looking for it a long time ago, but...
Well, I would venture that bolsters the point I was going to make, which is, why is it that we were able to find the reservoir for SARS-CoV-2 so fast?
Well, I don't think we ever found...
We haven't found SARS-CoV-1.
we didn't find the reservoir for SARS-CoV-2 either. The closest we found.
That's the whole zoonotic spread hinges on the idea that it came from one of these two reservoirs of bats.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily always find the original animal. Like it just doesn't happen all the time.
No, not the original. So with SARS-CoV-2, right? We very quickly found out the original species virus where it kind of incubated, and then from there spread into another animal where it transformed into something that could be spread to humans. With SARS-CoV-1, we very quickly found the animal that spread it to humans, but to your point, we still haven't found the animal that animal contracted it from. And so,
sure, but I guess like SARS-CoV-1 didn't that have like 6 or 7 different spillover events before it turned into a pandemic? Like I just don't know what the comparison is or why.
Well, it was more local. It was more locally contained. It wasn't nearly as infectious, but it was a lot more lethal.
And
which
then
is
also
part of the reason why there was the scare
for SARS-CoV-1.
SARS-CoV-2.
Like we're not saying that was like a lab leak, are we?
No, we're not saying that. But that's kind of my point. Is if China, if we're going to go based off past precedent of what China treating a pandemic level event kind of looks like, their response to SARS-CoV-2 and SARS-CoV-1 are very different. And when you couple that with intelligence agencies, which I think probably have more intel on what China is or was not studying, both Germany and the US, and I believe Australia, find it most plausible that it did come from a lab, suggests to me that
those reports
there's information that we don't know because China destroyed it, that intelligence agencies are aware of, and that SARS-CoV-2 most likely did come from a lab.
So,
now, it could have come naturally as well.
Sure. To be fair, real quick on those intelligence reports, those are low confidence. They admit, number one, and number two, they also introduced some evidence that we know now is just not true. Like the idea that researchers were sick, like in the fall or whatever. It's epidemiologically impossible to assume that virus was infecting people 3 months before an outbreak. We know how SARS-CoV-2 spreads. We've seen it spread in almost every single human population across the globe. At no point is there cryptic transmission for 3 months and then it explodes randomly in a wet market. Yeah. But wait, real quick, because you're going to get the final word, I think, on things, right? So So I'm just like, the argument for zoonotic spillover is that we've already found 97% similarity viruses that are circulating in bat populations in the same caves that we know the wet market stalls were selling animals from. That Huanan seafood market literally had more wet market live animal sales than any other wet market in the entire country. The idea that people went there was an animal that was infected, zoonotic spillover happens there, is easily accounted for in every single piece of evidence. Every single scientific investigation has pointed in that direction. Even though China tried to cover it up in the wet market, they got rid of the figures on the signs. They tried to kill all the animals before they let people go in and test. All of the epidemiological data from the samples tested on the site, all of the epidemiological data from people who got sick and went to the hospital afterwards, all of it points to it originating from the wet market. No researcher was ever shown to be sick with COVID. None of the seropositivity ever occurred in any of those people for COVID. We've seen it spread in the same way across the entire rest of the world. And we've seen the when you break down like the actual analysis of the virus itself, like it's a novel backbone. It's never seen anywhere else in the world. To account for them creating a novel backbone for a virus and then creating an infectious part of it that not only infects humans at a super high rate that was never predicted by any computer models, but also left out some very easy mutations. Like there's the amino acid 614 that goes from D to G or whatever. Like that mutation occurred like in a single generation. This is stuff that if you were creating in a lab, you probably would have already accounted for this because it's so obvious you're trying to make it on the black market. It's so hard to account for all of these individual facts, and all of this also is still off of a conjecture because there's not a single shred of evidence anywhere. The best we can do is make conjecture or a story to say that it came from the lab, and there's just no solid evidence to point that. All the evidence points to zoonotic spillover. That's my argument for that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you, Deej, will have the last word. Again, there's a poll in the YouTube chat, so if you guys want to vote on who you think did better, please do so. But go ahead, Deej. Tell people, or again, remind people where they can find you if they want to find you, and give your closing thoughts on this, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, DeejZ Nuts with a Z as well, if you want to. I'll say, again, it is plausible that the virus could have come from a zoonotic spillover event. Again, very rare chance that it could have occurred. There's a lot of factors as well to get to the point that it spreads in Wuhan that Destiny is glazing over. I think that the reason that we have no evidence for any of the things Destiny brought up is because China did a really good job at deleting and destroying that evidence wherever possible. The only evidence that we really have is things after the fact, as well as the fact that, well, it looks like it could have come naturally, or, well, it's really hard to make a virus that is, like like a secret virus that can cause a global pandemic in a lab. It's hard to do that. And, I would agree with that, but that doesn't mean that it is impossible. And it also leads to the credence that, well, that also doesn't prove that it couldn't have come from the lab. The question, well, the way Destiny posed it was, there is no evidence to suggest that it came from the lab. Yeah, sure, there is weak evidence that it came from the lab because like 95% of the evidence that the scientists are using is destroyed. It's one of the main critics that the scientists that are studying this have with the COVID discovery, is how opaque China is being on the matter. And so we just don't really have good data. And given the fact that intelligence agencies, which have more data than anyone else really would have, Germany, the US, Australia, believe it is more likely it came from the lab. And even China believes that the virus, who, by the way, China has the most evidence of anyone, believes that it could have come from the US, which, if that were true, would debunk any narrative about it coming from the bats in China, which is kind of the critical linchpin in it being a zoonotic spillover event. So I think it's more likely it came from the lab. I don't think Destiny has proven that it absolutely could not have come from the lab like he claimed in the beginning, but let the votes be what they'll be.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. Gang, you can find him on the YouTube thing. Just check him out. He's a good guy. Having fun so far, sir?
So much fun.
I know, it's great. So again, the vote right now is at 70% Destiny, 30% Deej. Okay, the next topic. Let's get this guy in here. Hello, sir. Oh, well. Hello, sir.
Uh-oh.
You're good. Just don't click join voice. Just turn on your video, and we can hear you and stuff. So.
How are you guys doing? Sorry,
I'm
Discord.
doing well. So the topic for this particular discussion will be this. Destiny thinks that Epstein almost certainly killed himself with no foul play involved. Fatty, tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you, and yeah, tell people, and then we'll get this show on the road.
Thank you very much for having me, Week. My name is Claudio. I'm streaming from Portugal. My stripper name is Fatty, and because I'm getting older, I'm trying to get some YouTube coins, so I'm making the transition. So you can find me on the Untouchable Empire, more specifically on the Team Fatty show. Shout out to the Untouchables, and thank you. Nice to meet you, Destiny.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Okay, Destiny, give us your opening thoughts, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, sorry, this is just like the other ones, I guess. There's just literally zero evidence whatsoever that Epstein was killed by any other person. The two most common conspiracies are that either somebody else was let in to kill him, or he was allowed to kill himself. If we're going to say he was allowed to kill himself, I mean, that's a theory, but there's just zero evidence of that at all. We just have to go by baseless conjecture. The idea that somebody else that came into the jail and killed him, and there were literally no signs of a struggle. Nobody else on that cell block reported any disturbances at night. The person was able to get in and out with nobody knowing. And again, there's no evidence for this. It just seems pretty likely that the guy who already had one suicide event, who attempted to kill himself, probably tried again, and he succeeded the second time. Yeah.
Why would the person that, if there's, because we are going by reports from the DOJ and FBI, the DOJ and the FBI said there was no Epstein list. Why would they delete themselves over a list that doesn't exist? If we're going by evidence based, why would he do that? If the list doesn't exist, the FBI, DOJ came to the conclusion, why would they delete themselves over something that doesn't?
Why would who delete themselves?
Well, yeah, why would Epstein delete themselves or delete himself over?
Because because his life was over. He was going to get convicted for what was it? I don't know. It was for like child sexual assault or abuse or whatever. Like, yeah, his life was basically over. He's probably going to die in jail, and he was disgraced, obviously, right?
Yep, but he wasn't, because the FBI said there was no client list. There was no client list. There's no crime.
Well, no, he wasn't being convicted of having a client list. He was being charged and was going to be convicted of it was what was it? Trafficking minors, the sex trafficking of minors.
On that list, and you say that there's no evidence that he committed self-deletion. Do you believe that he probably is the most high profile, probably the most important prisoner at that time in the United States of like 350 million people? Is the most important person to actually open the mouth and talk about something? Do you think he's the guy,
Probably not. No,
or who is above him?
I don't know. I don't know if he didn't seem like he had any important connections or anything big. Nothing has come out of it. We've seen even the Trump administration fail to produce anything. So it seems like he was just kind of a billionaire, creepy dude who liked to fuck kids sometimes.
So you believe that Epstein didn't have eye connections with politicians, bankers, entertainment industry, like it doesn't have nothing, it has nothing to do with them?
I think if he did, I think he wouldn't have gotten arrested and been put in jail. He probably would have gotten out using his connections. That's the whole point of having a blackmail list, right?
Absolutely. But the thing is, if he didn't have those connections, Donald Trump and his administration wouldn't try to stop it, right? Because if he doesn't have those connections, why is Trump trying to say this is the Obama hoax? The Republicans are trying to stop the Democrats from releasing it. He doesn't have no connections, so why would he try to stop him? He doesn't know nobody.
Because all of the people that Trump put in his cabinet positions were all conspiracy theorists who said there were big connections. And now that they actually got into office, people like Dan Bongino, people like Kash Patel, and they realize there's nothing there, now they have to try to make excuses and scramble to figure out, why they fucked up so bad.
Or they change their position because now it's very convenient, right? Because, for example, Donald Trump said he was releasing the files, and when his buddy, Mr. Elon Musk, said that he was indeed inside of the Epstein files, all of a sudden, all of them flipped. They went from there's files to there's no files to the files exist, but it's Obama. Why would they have to lie and change their story 3 times in a row to make sure, like, if there's no connections, why would they change the story? Why would they do that?
I already said, because there were a bunch of conspiracy theorists that thought there were lists that were there. There weren't lists. When they got into office and they started reading on it more, they realized they had nothing, and then they had nothing to release. If there was information there, then I would ask the same question that Trump asked now. Why wouldn't Biden and them release it?
Because there's Democrats involved too.
Why wouldn't
Like
they just
Bill
delete
Clinton,
themselves from the list and then they could release it like that? Couldn't they just doctor it?
Because if one domino falls, it's very probable that the rest of them do. You can you can just erase the part that you are involved and not expect the other people to not try to do the same thing with you.
If all of it is so like held together that if a single domino falls, then everything will be completely over. Why would anybody even allow Epstein to be arrested in the first place? Why wouldn't he have been killed before he got to jail? Or why wouldn't people have just pulled some strings and like, hey, let's not arrest this dude. He's got like the list. The whole point of having a list is to prevent yourself from getting arrested or getting in trouble, right?
Absolutely, but like you said, is once the evidence pile up, there's no such thing as we're going to stop him from go to jail. There's very prominent people that actually had a bunch of connections and could put people in the extreme amount of danger that are either in jail or they can go back to the United States, because if they put the foot in, they will definitely be arrested. Like they talk about Julian Assange, let's talk about all these whistleblowers. They will definitely, once again, as soon as they are subject to the United States government, they will definitely go to jail. So that doesn't disprove nothing.
Well, I don't understand. I'm saying that you acknowledge like the whole point of a blackmail list is to make it so you never get in trouble, right?
Yes.
So what would be the point of having the blackmail list if he still got in trouble?
Because he was not working probably for the United States government. He was working for the Israeli government.
If he was working for the Israeli government and had protection from the Israeli government, then why wouldn't he be doing this in Israel? Why would he be in the United States doing it?
Because there's literally his job is to make sure that he has blackmail on American citizens and American politicians, so Israel can actually get their way. So he was not working. He was
if he had no protection from the American government and only protection from the Israeli government, why is it that when he got arrested in America, why wouldn't he just give investigators all of the names of the American offending citizens to save himself then?
Because actually he did. I'm lying on this one. When they asked him under oath if Donald Trump was involved, and he was answering everything with yes or no, very specifically, when they asked about Donald Trump involvement, if they at parties together, reminders, he said, I plead the fifth. And another one that I don't remember right now. Why would he plead the fifth when he was answering very objectively and with intention to all those questions? Why would he change his mood when it comes to...
You can plead the fifth for any number of reasons, but I'm asking you, if he was like only protected with Israel, right, why wouldn't he just give investigators a whole bunch of names of Americans and turn them over, and like, wouldn't that be good?
he was not just protected with Israel because he had high connections with a very high profile people in the United States. And we know that people that are high profile, even though they might not go to jail, there's a level of entry when it comes to actually being convicted of something. And Donald Trump is actually a proof of it. Donald Trump is extremely powerful, and that didn't stop him from actually going through the judicial system on the United States. But
So wouldn't that have given Trump every incentive to release Epstein from jail ASAP or not have him arrested? Like Trump could literally just order that, right?
No, he couldn't, because actually it's the opposite. Epstein deleted himself under who?
Wasn't it under Trump?
Yes, absolutely.
So why wouldn't Trump just tell like the prosecutors like, hey, let's like leave this guy alone, or this guy's, going to Israel or whatever?
Because the loose ends are not just for Donald Trump, it's for everybody that is on the back too. So there's no incentive for them to leave him alive, or at least to not try to do something very nefarious to him.
Well, I thought the incentive is the blackmail list, right? That's the whole point of having a blackmail list, is so that people don't mess with you.
But there was no blackmail list because the DOJ and the FBI told there was no list. Didn't they say that?
Yeah, but wait, do you think there was no blackmail list, or do you think there was a blackmail list?
I think there was a blackmail list. Do you think it was a blackmail list?
So I don't know, but if he was
no. Destiny, is our opinion. I know you don't know, just like I don't know. Do you think that was a blackmail list?
No, I don't.
Do you think so? You don't think there was a blackmail list? You think that Donald Trump is not on the Epstein files?
No, he's probably like in flight logs, but I don't think he's on I don't think there's a client list. No.
So let me ask you something, right? And going to the first stance that you did, if Epstein is, if not number one, because that's debatable, let's go with top 5, right, of prisoners in the United States at that time. For him to actually delete himself, that has to be 4th massive fail guards when it comes to the prisonal system there, right? It was the guards falling asleep, 2 of them, cameras malfunctioning, a cellmate was removed from his jail a day before, and supposedly was on suicide watch, but wasn't being watched as soon as they released him. Do you think that the American system, the prison system, especially for these high-end profile pictures, is so bad that you can have guards asleep, cameras malfunctioning, cellmates being removed, and somebody being deleted on the suicide watch? Do you think all of these catastrophic failures can happen at the same time?
Yes, easily. If you read the report on this prison, there were all these failures happening for long periods of time. Tons of our federal prisons have tons of issues. I just heard this stat like 2 weeks ago that 95% of prisons in the state of Florida don't have fucking air conditioners. So yeah, there are people that kill themselves in federal prisons. It does happen. There are guards that fall asleep. There are cameras that malfunction. There are housing units that are substandard for a whole bunch of different reasons. Yeah. Is it a lot of errors at once? Yeah, but I think the question should be more, what the fuck is going on in our federal prisons, rather than relying on 50 different errors to happen to kill this guy in the most mysterious way possible. Why, if you wanted to kill Epstein, why would you break the cameras, tell the guards to lie, make the guards fall asleep, put him on suicide watch, and then take a guy out of his cell and then secretly kill him in prison? Why wouldn't you just say, oh, this guy's allowed out on leave, and then when he leaves prison, kill him somewhere else? Wouldn't that be a billion times easier?
Because, like you said, he was not going nowhere. You literally said it. You said this man.
No. Why can't you release him? Why can't you release him on house arrest or whatever while he's awaiting his trial because he was charged?
Because for the charges that he was going to get, he's not going to put the foot outside ever. He has insurmountable evidence.
Well, no, I don't think. But he still hadn't been convicted yet. He could be released on house arrest. He was a billionaire, right? What is the point? What is the point of having all this money and all these connections to blackmail people if you can't use any of them? What is the point of this? This is the worst blackmail list ever.
But if that's the point, you contradict yourself. Because if he had the chance or he had the hope that he was going to be on house arrest, why did he kill himself?
I don't think he had any hope. I think he knew he was guilty and he was going to be fucked. But I think if he had a blackmail list, I think he would have stayed alive because he knows he could blackmail people.
But he goes against what you are saying. If you think that this man is innocent, there's no list.
No. Hold on. Wait. You keep going back. Just because he wasn't being charged with a crime about a list. He was being charged with a crime for trafficking minors for himself to fuck. He's not about other people.
Oh, so he was the island was just for his personal use.
That's what he's being charged with a crime for. Yes.
So if the island was for personal use, why did hundreds of people travel to that particular island if it was just for its personal use?
Because it was a nice island with huge shit on it with a bunch of stuff to do besides just banging kids.
Okay. We will go with that.
Here's a question. Just a question. Go ahead. Is there any evidence at all of the blackmail list existing? Any evidence whatsoever of the client list or the blackmail list anywhere?
Yeah, there's witnesses of people that are now head of the FBI and head of the DOJ saying the list exists and is on my desk, and then on the next day flipping and saying, "Oh, we don't have the list."
Wait. Not hearsay saying that they've heard it or that whatever, but people who have literally seen it. Right, so I've seen the call with with Dan Bongino on Tim Pool, and he says he has a friend who told him it exists. Pam Bondi said she got a bunch of stuff on her desk. She didn't say it was the client list, though. She never said that. I've never, Akash Patel, I think I've heard him say he's heard people that says it exists and it definitely exists, but I've never heard anybody. There's no direct evidence. Also, none of these people were under oath. When Ghislaine Maxwell was under oath, she said there was no client list. She just did this deposition or whatever a few days ago. Epstein's never testified to a list. There's never been any evidence submitted of any list anywhere, just like a bunch of conspiracy theorists saying it to the media. Is there any, what is the single, if you had to pick one single piece of evidence to show that this list, that anybody said or that looks like it exists, what's the one best piece of evidence that you would point to?
The one best is the thousands of victims that are not thousands, hundreds probably, it's if not thousands of victims that actually try to talk about it, and especially one that tried to talk about it against the prince of, like a prince on the United Kingdom, and in one day she got on a bus crash, and 3 days later or 5 days later, a week later, something like that, I missed the timeline, she deleted themselves when she literally made a bunch of posts saying, "I'm not suicidal. If something happened to me, please go ahead and prosecute these people because I'm not suicidal. I'm not trying to kill myself." And once again, Destiny, I think is interesting that if nothing of this happened, then you agree that Maxwell should be released, right? You think she should be released?
You keep saying nothing happened. Maxwell helped Epstein traffic minors to his island for him to sexually exploit. That's what happened.
For him himself. Hundreds of
I don't know if it was hundreds. I don't think it was it? I don't think the charges were for hundreds of minors, right?
Can we verify it?
I don't know the specific number.
I think you normally charge these independently. If it was hundreds, why did Ghislaine only get 20 years or whatever?
Because they have an incentive for her to just close their motherfucking trap.
No, you can't have it. You can't have it all ways where it's like, well, they charge her to keep her quiet. Well, then why do they charge her at all? Well, because if they don't charge her, she'll figure it. Like, well, it can't be all ways. It has to be.
But it doesn't work like that, because just because the government locks somebody, it happened with under Biden. The government and the politicians and not the politicians and the police officers lock under Biden so many times, and he never went to jail and he never went to prison. He always escaped and he never was prosecuted. So
wait,
you can
who?
say that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son. I can't pronounce the name.
Sure, but Hunter has nothing to do with this. I'm just saying.
But I'm using it to prove the point that even though everyone on this conversation know that he has very high connections, that doesn't stop him from going to jail, from being arrested, from actually being at least booked, and then somebody upper end called him and says, "Hey, I know y'all arrested, but take him out from it. Take him from."
Yeah, but that didn't happen with Biden. Biden literally got convicted of the most insanely crazy crimes ever, of the lying on a gun form, and of
Hunter Biden or Joe Biden?
Hunter Biden.
So Hunter Biden was convicted for doing crack,
Hunter Biden was convicted for lying on a 4473 when buying a firearm, and was convicted for paying back his taxes late in 2019 or whatever.
Does he has strong backers?
Well, I mean, his dad was the president of the United States, who ultimately pardoned him. Yeah, but there was no other way to get him out besides the pardon power of the president. He couldn't flex his connections. And
how did he get away? Wasn't it with the pardon on the last days of his presidency?
Yeah, but that's a pardon, right? It's not like he used secret connections. Like, that was his dad as the president pardoned him to prevent it from going to jail.
And this is what we're talking about. A lot of times the American system actually arrests people, and then people that are in positions of power do machinations to make sure that these people either get away, disappear, or get convicted and stay there all life.
Wait, then why didn't Trump just pardon Epstein then, if that's what the expectation was?
Because he will lose his political base and he will be the most infamous president of all time, because Epstein is hated on all the planet.
You keep talking. I don't know how to counter this. You keep talking about Epstein like he's just a victim of the system and can't do anything to get himself out of the system. Wait, so I don't mean like he didn't rape anybody, right? I'm saying that you're talking about him like a normal person, but on the back of this, you're talking about the most powerful blackmail list in the world. What is the point of the most powerful blackmail list in the world if you can't even keep yourself from getting arrested by the feds, Like, if there was ever a reason to have a blackmail list to fuck kids, it would be to get away with fucking kids. It doesn't make any sense that he would get caught on this and arrested. You would blackmail, like, why is it that when he died, why didn't half the names on the list get leaked? Wouldn't that be the whole point? When you have a dead man switch on a blacklist, isn't the whole point of having extortion blackmail material like this?
No, because fucking kids is just a tool for the fucking kids is just a tool for the ends that they want to meet. It's like 2 planes.
What was that a tool for? What did the fucking kids?
So you put people in compromising positions, and fucking kids is the most egregious thing that you can do in the history of mankind. And now these people are in debt for you for life, so they can go ahead and do your bidding.
But the bidding can't get you out of jail?
Absolutely not. It was insurmountable evidence. Like, you can do
that's the whole
nothing
point. You just said that they suicided one girl who was on a bus and said I wasn't suicidal, and you believe that she was murdered. Why didn't they just do that to the other victims?
No. Do you, hey Destiny? I'll say this, right? And you are right. We're just speculating at this point. But my question, this question has kind of nothing to do with it. But do you trust the DOJ and the FBI?
Right now, I don't. But this story, all the evidence or whatever shows that he killed himself, and that it's like there's literally no evidence to the contrary. But if I was to believe another story, there are so many better ways that it would have happened. I would never risk. First of all, the microsecond this dude gets caught, he's getting whacked. Fucking Obama's drone striking motherfuckers in Yemen that are American citizens, and you're telling me that Epstein got all the way to the jail to not only to try to kill himself one time and fail and still be surrounded by all those people, the most powerful blackmail list alive. If he knows he's going to be killed, he could have leaked everything. You would have just killed him on arrest, like they did with who was that one guy, Reinhold or whatever, who shot at the police officer, and the FBI went to arrest him and they shot him and killed him. Why they would just kill him on arrest if that was real, if that was what they were worried about? Why would they put him all the way into prison and go through all that process? That's like the worst assassination ever.
Because, like I said, there's two congruent. There's the judicial system working and all the system working, and there's the people in power that are doing that are going against the system to try to protect themselves.
What is the point of being in charge of all those systems and having all the power if the systems just work independent of you anyway? Like, it seems like at that point the blackmail everything is worthless.
Just because you are in power doesn't mean that you control all the variants and all the angles of that power. Something can slip through your hands even as a president of the United States. Donald Trump is the most powerful man in the world. He got 36 felons and he was convicted by a bunch
on
of things.
State charges, though, right? But I'm not the one who believes in these types of conspiratorial things. You are, right?
No. You actually believe in them. This is the last question I have for you, right? Or not a question. This is a statement. This is a statement, right? If the American government and some figureheads on the back room decided to delete 3,000 Americans by sending 2 planes against 2 towers, and for whatever reason 3 skyscrapers fell in free fall speed to go to the Middle East and kill 1 million people to get resources, oil and opioids and all that, you think the same government will do anything to protect the same people that probably are on these lists to make sure that they never go to jail and are alive?
I think if you had a government that was capable of orchestrating 9/11, they sure as hell wouldn't let Epstein get all the way to the jail cell for weeks or months before killing him in the jail cell in the most convoluted way possible.
Okay, and there's my final statement.
I'm just curious, how do you theorize that he died if there's no evidence of a struggle or anything else when he was killed? How do you get...
So what happened is there was a fracture, I think it's the oidioid fractures that usually are not present on suicide, especially on hangings that are in low range. And like, I think he was, because I got it on my list, the former New York chief medical examiner Michael Baden, 50 years in the field, said it looks like a homicide. Most people that actually look at the injuries that he had and the bones that were broken on his neck say that even sometimes they are present in suicides. This is usually a signs of homicides.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that. The official coroner, the official examiner, said that it looked like a suicide. That Michael Baden guy, who's like a celebrity who makes a living off of giving sensational news, says usually this bone isn't present in suicides, but it is more likely to be broken in suicides in older people and in people that weigh more. Epstein was, what was he, 60 something or in his late 50s, and the guy weighed, I think, 180 pounds. He was like a 6 foot or whatever guy, like hanging. The idea that this, I don't know if I don't know if that was a bone or like cartilage would be broken, even though it might not be as common in suicides, which I've never even seen that evidence presented, because everything I've seen shows that it absolutely can be broken in suicides. There's no other markings on his body that imply that he was killed by another person. There's no defensive wounds. There's no bruising anywhere. There's no signs of a struggle. Nobody else in the cell block reported hearing anything. There's no evidence of anybody going in and out of the prison. There's not even a theory for who would have done it. There's nothing else at all that points to it being a murder.
This is the famous meme. The CIA and the FBI investigated themselves, and they found there was no wrongdoing.
No, you can't use that.
procedure.
You can't say that the government is so powerful that they could kill all the investigations, but that same government couldn't have just said, don't arrest Epstein or kill him when you go to arrest him. You see how sometimes they're all powerful for you, and then other times they're helpless and they can't stop the good people doing their jobs.
They are not all powerful. They are very powerful. Some things actually go through their fingers and escape. And the
Like the
reality
arrest
is,
of the most important blackmail person in the world. You just said he was the highest profile prisoner ever.
Absolutely. And like I said, Destiny, can you explain to me why is Donald Trump fighting so much against the list it released if he was not in the island?
Yeah, because I don't think there's anything there, but I think that he's got like flight logs that have a ton of names on it. I think Trump shows up on it a lot. He knows it's going to look bad, so he just doesn't want it released.
So it's just about looking bad. It's not him actually being involved with these minors.
Yeah.
You don't believe that?
I think that if Trump was fucking minors, I think we would have heard about this a long time ago. We got audio leaked from him on a bus saying grab him by the pussy and all sorts of things. I think we would have gotten this a long time ago if there was any solid evidence of this. Why wouldn't Biden or anybody else have released any part of this list?
Your argument doesn't make sense because Epstein was doing this for 20 or 30 years and there was nobody talking about it. We only got this. B did the same thing.
Wait. Nobody talking about it. He got arrested the first time in like 2002 or whatever. What do you mean? People.
No. But what we're talking about is people are going to do wrongdoings until they get caught. That's the reality of it. They are going to get caught doing some things.
No, but he's not people. That's the whole point of having a blackmail list. So if you get caught, it's not a big deal. You can just you can use your blackmail list to get out of it. That's the whole point.
Okay. Finish your thought, and then we'll close out, right?
I would say that Destiny. I don't believe that Destiny. I think he's debating, and I actually think he's debating a position that he doesn't believe in. So I'll appreciate the opportunity. It was kind of a difficult thing to defend, but a 1 in a million situation where 2 guards fall asleep, cameras malfunction, cellmates remove. Being on suicide watch, this is a 1 in a million chance. It's like my ring door fails, I forget to lock the door, I leave the key in the keyhole, I take sleeping pills. Like, this is so many variables in the so short amount of time that we clearly know that there's some wrongdoing going on. So once again, I appreciate you the opportunity. Thank you very much, sir. I won't forget that. And Destiny, I see you in a few years when we are very famous and popular on YouTube. Okay, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, thank you for being here, Fatty. Go check him out, gang. Once again, polls up. You can vote. Who do you think did better? And you can tell me in chat what you thought. We got one more scheduled for you, and if you wouldn't mind, this is going a little quicker than I thought. We could do like a kind of a call-in free-for-all. We'll see, right? It's up to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to call in and challenge Destiny on something, get backstage. Anyway, before that though, we do have one more scheduled topic. Okay, and we have Mr. Wise Guys for this one. Welcome, sir.
Oh wait, hold up. Let me fix my Discord.
Take your time. The topic is this. Trump's campaign likely did collude with Russia, but we'll never know. Once he gets his camera working, we'll let him introduce himself.
Is it up?
I can see you. Okay,
There
Mr.
we go.
Wise Guy.
Perfect.
Tell people who you are, introduce yourself. Where can they
All
find
right,
you?
so I'm Mr. Wise Guy, and I'm going to be very awkward because I do not do good with talking to public spaces. But yeah, anyways, you can find me on YouTube, Rumble, X, all Mr. Wise Guy.
To the topic, Destiny, do you want to start us off? Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that there are several things you could point to, but I'll just focus on Roger Stone. I think Roger Stone obviously was a campaign surrogate, was in communication with the Trump camp. I think that it's well known at this point that Roger Stone was communicating with the Russian hacker that hacked the DNC and was trying to coordinate the media leaks from the DNC hacks with the Guccifer 2.0 hacker who was working for the Russian KGB. And then Oh, I mean, Roger Stone was, they tried to charge him and investigate this, and, he didn't cooperate at all. He obstructed over and over again. He told another witness not to cooperate. And then eventually, when he was convicted of obstruction for not cooperating with investigators, Trump pardoned him. I think Stone even said publicly that he wouldn't squelch on Trump. I think it's pretty hard to fight on all of that. Yeah.
Was he the guy that got arrested and went to jail and then he got pardoned, or?
That's like half the Trump initial campaign people. Yeah, Flynn, Manafort, Stone, yeah.
Well, I can't really. I mean, I should have looked into Robert Stone more often, but you basically said your prompt was you. What's that looked at?
What?
Go ahead. Just go, with Mr. Wise Guy.
You basically you said that it's likely that he colluded with Russia, but I'm gonna say the Mueller. I'm gonna start with the the Mueller report. You said they didn't conclude with that there was any collusion with the Trump campaign, but you say that it's likely that we'll never know. So I'm what do you mean when you say it's likely we'll never know? Even though they did concluded that this wasn't
Because I think that, Mueller mentions in his report, and Donald Trump tried everything he could to obstruct the investigation. He fired Comey because Comey wouldn't call off the investigation after they arrested Flynn. Other people were obstructing and telling witnesses to lie, like Roger Stone, to protect Trump, and he did protect Trump. He was pardoned by Trump. Trump was looking for ways to shut down Mueller, but wasn't able to do so. Trump publicly fought with Jeff Sessions, who was the acting attorney general, because he told Sessions to stop it, and Sessions recused himself. He wouldn't cooperate with him. So there's evidence of Trump obstructing at multiple points, knowing what he was doing, obstructing at multiple points on this investigation, and he continued to do stuff behind the scenes as well. So yeah.
But isn't that
Can you turn up your mic, Mr. Wise Guy? Can you take your mic and turn it up? People are having a hard time hearing you. But yeah, go ahead.
All right, how's this?
We're probably as good as we're gonna get. Keep going.
Okay. Could you repeat what you just said?
He tried to obstruct in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, but obstructing in different ways doesn't necessarily mean that his campaign was colluding with Russia. But during the entire we had this whole witch hunt in the entire I'll call it a witch hunt. Mm-hmm. For this entire 20s from 2016 or 2017 all the way to 2018 or 2019, and they were scrutinizing his his presidency for the first 2 years, and you have all these articles bombarding him with all these allegations with the Russia stuff, and everyone kept on hearing about it, and then they finally concluded that there was no collusion for here. So as that's going on, wouldn't that make sense? Trump knows that he wasn't doing this, so Trump being Trump is going to try and obstruct, because he knows that he's this is not legit, so he's going to fight for it. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he was colluding with Russia. That's him kind of defending himself.
Yeah, so I agree that that's not enough. You could argue, now that doesn't necessarily follow. Biden allowed his son and himself to be investigated a ton and didn't obstruct, but you could argue there's a different moral character there. You could argue that Trump was just trying to stop it because he thought it was bullshit, and I think that's a fair argument. The only thing that complicates that is the fact that there were members of his campaign that were directly convicted relating to lying about Russia stuff. So I think Flynn lied to the FBI about communications with Russians. Manafort lied because he was working overseas with, it wasn't Yanukovych. I want to say it's Proshetto, but that's obviously it's not his fucking name. It's Proshetto in fucking Ukrainian, Politensky or whatever.
Yeah.
There was some other name. Fuck, somebody shall say it. But he was working with this guy and wasn't declaring anything to the U.S. State Department, and those connections, he got in trouble for that, $14 million in assets. And then the Stone stuff was bad. But I would say that's not maybe on its own. The Stone was directly communicating. Flint lied about shit. But the fact that these guys didn't really cooperate with investors and got pardoned by Trump, I think that's points really strong. But that's why I do say we'll never know 100%. I wouldn't say it was 100% that he did, but I think it points heavily in that direction. And in some cases, he absolutely did with Stone. But to the full extent, we'll never know because he obstructed the fuck out of the investigation.
I wish I did more stuff on the Robert Stone guy, because I did I did do some research before starting this because, like, I knew when you gave, because, like, that end part when you did for your, like, we'll probably never know really stumped me. And I didn't really know how to kind of, like, deal with this. But the fact that, I mean, so you're basically just saying it's, like, kind of like a conspiracy. Because, like, it is proven that there really isn't, like, there wasn't any collusion. They did scrutinize and, like, looked into it a bunch. So, like, it's not like they it's not like they would have, like, if they would have found something, they would have found something. Because, like, Trump has been, like, there's been indictments on, like, so many different things in the past. And even, like, after 2020, like, what was it, like the January 6th committee, like they
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna, I mean, I agree, like, I am alleging a conspiracy, but so I think in order to allege a conspiracy, I think you need extraordinary evidence to allege a conspiracy. I would say that it is extraordinary that Donald Trump was pardoning people that were directly working with him and obstructing justice related to investigations concerning Donald Trump. That's extraordinary. I would say Donald Trump firing James Comey,
yeah, but
that's extraordinary. And there was literally the whole point of the special prosecutor being appointed was because he fired James Comey. That was extraordinary. And he lied about why he fired him. He said he fired James Comey because he thought he mishandled the Hillary Clinton email investigation. We all know that's a lie, right?
I mean, but
we know that's a lie because he would have fired him on day one if that was the case, right? But he only fired him after he had the conversation about Comey dropping the investigation, and Comey said he wasn't going to, and it was inappropriate to ask, and then Trump fired him after that. So, like, we know that's why he fired him.
Probably, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure on the conspiracy either, but I think in order for a conspiracy to happen, you need to have ways to explain extraordinary things. And I think the president of the United States working behind the scenes to pardon people and to work with people and to pressure people, I think all of those pieces of evidence are all known. Usually we would have to work really hard to uncover these, but Trump does it out in the open. Like with the Ukraine thing, like making the phone call. We have the 47-minute conversation with Giuliani asking Zelensky, say, can you please publicly announce an investigation into Hunter Biden? I know you have no evidence, but please just announce this. We can just listen to the whole phone call. That's an extraordinary piece of evidence that normally you would get declassified 60 years later, you know?
Yeah, I guess. But I really don't I honestly don't have anything more to say on that, to be honest.
Well, what do you have to say? What did you come in here to argue?
Well, I came here to argue, I kind of came here to argue that it's kind of just a conspiracy. It's not necessarily like I would do what you would do and kind of like go on like, why don't you just go with like what the Mueller report came in and like.
The Mueller report did say all of this. The Mueller report said that there was obstruction. The Mueller report he didn't recommend it, but he said that there was enough there to recommend obstruction. Obstruction is obstruction into the investigation. Mueller himself said that.
Yes, there's obstruction, but not collusion.
Well, because the obstruction was to obscure the collusion. That was the whole point of the obstruction, right?
Yeah, but wouldn't be able to find. They should have been able to find that. Like,
how? If they're not being cooperated with in any of the investigators, and if you don't cooperate with investigators, they'll get you because they'll flip you because they can press you with charges and stuff. A federal prosecutor can't pressure somebody when the president of the United States can pardon you.
Well, they can though.
How? The president can just pardon you.
Yeah, but they can still pressure and get the information out, and then when they get pardoned,
with what pressure?
You won't be able. Yeah, but once you get pardoned, you can't plead the fifth anymore. So you have to you're able to still get investigated and get information out that way.
That's a theory that some people have floated, but nobody really knows how that would work in practice.
But that's how it would work, though.
Well, nobody knows that. I've heard that before. I think it's cute. I think it's actually a really interesting legal theory that, like, if you really want to get somebody to fuck over somebody above them, just pardon them first so they're not allowed to plead the fifth. I think that's a really interesting idea, but that's a novel legal theory. I don't believe that's ever been tested before.
Okay. All right.
Also, keep in mind, well, actually, that argument is recursively self-defeating. Let's say that they do pardon them, and now you're saying they're not allowed to plead the fifth. Well, what happens if they don't plead the fifth? Then they get held in federal contempt, and pardon can still happen from the president over and over again, right? So even that doesn't help.
I mean, that's a little bit of a. I don't know if it would work, but like if they get pardoned with one thing, is there like a limitation for how many times you can pardon one person?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well.
And again, I agree this is exceptional, but like Donald Trump pardoned people that were convicted of seditious conspiracy to obstruct the election process and put him back in power. It's all the J6ers, all the Oath Keepers, all of the Patriot Boys, the people who broke into the Capitol initially. Trump pardoned all of these people who were loyalists to him that obstructed federal law to keep him in power. So it's not, yeah. So I am alleging a conspiracy, but I think there's a lot of good reasons to think that this conspiracy happened. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay, I can see your reasonings, but like I feel like Trump using the what you've given us so far for like Trump specifically, I feel like Trump is just such a unique type of like president or person to kind of like you can use them, and for any other like normal person, it would look like it would look really, really bad, and you could probably I would probably agree with you, but I feel like with Trump you would have to. I feel like you're just not. I feel like you're not as you should. Well, you won't be. I feel like you should be more charitable. But I know why you won't be more charitable because you.
Well, wait, excuse me.
Really,
I am being quite charitable. You can't point to a single president in all of U.S. history. Even Nixon wasn't as blatant with the corruption as Trump. If you can give me a single example here where you think I'm being hypocritical, you can't give me a single example of that.
No, I'm not saying that you're hypocritical. I'm not saying that.
Well, you're implying that I would give more charity to somebody besides Trump. I think Trump's gotten tons of charity. And we've even seen in the other investigations that he's obstructed. That was part of the Mar-a-Lago hidden documents thing, the secret documents. He told his lawyer, Noida, or however you pronounce his name, hey, can you please go hide those boxes? Hey, investigators are showing up. Hey, my lawyer's showing up. Can you move those boxes? Like, he obstructed that investigation as well.
Yeah, but didn't they still get like the information from those boxes and stuff like that?
No, there's like 12 boxes that Trump flew back up to New York that we have no idea what those are. Those are just gone forever. Maybe the Epstein client list is in those are in those boxes. Who knows?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure about that. But like, I feel like if they really wanted to get that information, really, I feel like if they really wanted to get that information, then they found it's just so weird that they can find all of these old, like the whole grab him by the pussy thing for like a long time ago, and they can get all this information. They can dig into all this stuff, but they can't find the big main criticism of like Russian collusion, like legitimately.
Well, the grab him by the pussy stuff is just like that's entertainment stuff that Donald Trump is involved in. He's not the president. He has the power to obstruct or do anything back then, right?
But they did dug into it and found that random thing from 2006. They also found like a video of him like with Epstein at a party in like the 1990s. Like if you like, they can find all of this stuff on him. But
yeah, but he's not. There's no reason for him to be colluding with Russia relating to election stuff prior to 2016 because he's not running for election, right?
Okay, so then he isn't like then. I would say it's likely that he didn't like his campaign didn't collude with Russia.
Okay, I totally
so
disagree.
You agree with me?
No, I don't. I think it's more likely that he colluded, especially if you look at the Roger. We haven't even touched the Trump Tower meeting with all the people, right? But
the Tower thing was there was no actual information exchange and stuff like that.
Do we know that?
It was just like a nothing burger. In the Mueller report, they explicitly found that this did not amount to coordination with Russia election interference. Okay, so they specifically say a Russian election interference, but yeah.
Okay, I would have to go back and dig that in because I feel like the Stone Manafort stuff on its own is already pretty damning. But yeah, I mean, and then the fact that we've seen like overt, like open and proud obstruction over and over again with Trump into his own investigations, and we've seen him pardon people. Like if you were to make a conspiracy, like you have every single piece that you need publicly available and proven at this point. That doesn't mean a conspiracy necessarily happens, but we could explain one if it did happen. We wouldn't need like some exceptional thing like a secret person carrying a virus from a lab to a wet market or a secret assassin that came in where everybody else told him to be quiet. Like we have all the pieces for the Trump thing to totally make sense, right? He's in charge of the government. He believes he can order every part of the government around. He tells people to lie for him. Stone says he will. Stone gets pardoned for it. It's not like everything is there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, didn't one like in his first presidency? Didn't someone like lie in his like about the actual troop numbers inside the for when he was trying to pull out, and then like he admitted it after the election in 2020 when he lost it. Like,
yeah, I think it was this Mattis? I think said that Donald Trump basically said, yeah.
I'm only bringing this up because you said that he's like the most powerful person, he can control it, but like there was a lot of things that he couldn't do in his first presidency. Like he kind of didn't really get much done, as you said.
Well, I think he could have. I think he could have done that. But I don't think he gave much a fuck about it. I think it's just being spite driven. He was literally like, I'm leaving office, fucking pull our shit out of Afghanistan, fuck Biden and fuck this country. And the general at the time was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's retarded. But they just didn't. But I don't think Trump cared much about this. It was like a thing that he said and just like fucked off, basically.
Yeah, but didn't he like fire the guy afterwards? Like, didn't he do something with that specific person when he came in office?
Maybe.
Time?
I think was this Mattis? Is that who I'm thinking of, guys? Yeah, I think he did. But what about it?
Well, I mean, well, you said it was spite driven, so he remembered that he lied about the numbers to Trump, and then Trump got really pissed off.
Yeah, he fucking hated that dude.
To really do much.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought Trump like maybe stripped him of his like power
security clearance
like
or something as well. Maybe.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, but you said that he's like one of the most powerful. I don't think he's.
Okay.
I don't think he utilized his. I didn't think he was even. You said his campaign specifically, so that's a little different. But I think Trump is just way too unique to really say that he's that his thing colluded with Russia. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Mr. Wise. You got any final words?
One more thing, though.
Final arguments? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember meeting me at that one?
Yeah,
event?
was it the one in the? Was it the
one?
one in? I don't remember the city.
They switched it.
Was it in?
To a
Was it in
location?
Yeah, in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said that you didn't trust me. Why?
Did I say that? I don't. It sounds like a mean thing I just said. What was the context for this?
Okay, all right, never mind. It was yeah. You just okay. It was some random nonsense. Okay.
Wait. What was the context? Did you ask me a question or what was a?
No, I didn't ask you a question. I kind of just came up and I was like, hey, I wanted to get like your Discord, and you were like, no, you don't trust me because like.
Yeah, well, I don't usually hand my socials out to random people because I get. People do.
Yeah. You're dealing with a lot of BS right now. Personally, I feel like
sure.
I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
But your stances on, I feel like you need to be. Let me see. What was I gonna say? Freaking. I'm sorry, Wick. I had it in my mind and I lost it.
Where can people find you, sir?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, all the streaming platforms, even X as well, X, or Twitter, because Wick likes to call it Twitter.
Thank you for being
But it's nice
here.
talking to you, Destiny, and
you too.
hopefully I can chat with you more because I feel one big claim that I have against you is that I feel like you take politics way too. I feel like you take the general election politics of presidents way too seriously. I think you should, because like I understand some of your arguments, but I feel like you it just mind breaks you on like certain things that you say that you really don't need to say, because I feel like it's not necessary. It's not necessary. It's like
you can
Yeah.
you guys can connect later. Thank you for being here, Mr. Wise Guys.
All right.
Bye. Okay. Well, guess what, gang? That was the 4 we had scheduled, but we are going to open this up to other challengers, right? On other topics. We're going to mess with this format a bit. It was a pilot episode, okay? We're trying different things. But let's go into overtime, gang, okay? Let's bring in the first guy. I don't know what order you guys came in, so I'm just going to pick the people I think will do well. Okay. Hello, you're live. Swipe Hill. Oh, he can't hear us. Hold on, let me DM him.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. You got a camera for us today?
Yes, I do. You gotta warn me when you just drag me into these things. Come on, man.
Jeez.
Okay, what do you got?
Yeah,
What's your-
so I mean, I didn't prep for a specific debate. I thought this whole thing was going to be a Destiny allegations trial, but I'm
Jesus
curious.
Christ.
Shit, that's what everyone's talking about. That's what all my DMs are about. But no, I'm curious. Could you read me out your evidence for as to why the Russia collusion thing happened? I'd been writing some notes. I just want to make sure I got them all because
Well, so I think that
the logic isn't logicking for me.
So Roger Stone 100% was coordinating with Lucifer 2.0 for media timings on the leaks.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Stone was 100% a campaign surrogate for Trump's 2016 election campaign.
Right.
Roger Stone lied and obstructed every part of that investigation into him when investigators were investigating. And then he was pardoned eventually for said thing, for obstructing and keeping any amount of coordination with the Trump campaign safe. I think that it's almost certain that Stone was communicating with the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign probably should have said, hey, we don't do that. We're not coordinating with foreign hackers for the American political system. That's not good. That's not okay. But nobody said that. Nobody brought that up. I think it's a similar bad thing for that Trump Tower meeting was basically them saying, initially, I think when it leaked, they were like, we were just going to go chat with some friendly Russian lady about some Russian adoption thing. And then it later came out that actually we were getting opposition research from her in a Trump Tower from a Russian attorney. Super not okay. No, not good. And yeah, Trump just tried really hard at every stage to obstruct every part. Firing Comey was the incitement moment for appointing Mueller, telling Sessions to recuse himself, telling Sessions to kill the investigation, and then him recusing himself. Other people lying about communicating with Russia, like Flynn and getting pardoned. Like, it's just so much Trump pardoning everybody that's helping him keep everything covered up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So none of that I have a problem with. The incongruency comes from the debate you had right before that, where it seems like a president who is obstructing a justice in the most guilty, obvious ways, and also pardoning or if not commuting Ghislaine Maxwell's sentence is not evidence to, we might never know because the evidence hasn't come out to prove it solidly, but somehow that is like some wild, insane conspiracy, and this somehow meets the burden of, there's probably something there. I believe both of these things are probably true.
What? So for the the Stone Guccifer Trump connection, that's just publicly known. There's that happened.
Right. So the Trump Epstein connection is known. Obviously, Trump diddling kids is not known.
Yeah, that's the interesting part.
There are accusers, and that's where it ends.
Sure.
He's partying with him. There's evidence of him trying to cover up his name by saying, "Hey, FBI, redact my name out of these files."
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not there's literally a list of like people's names, I think that actually is probably not true because that's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably killed himself. Whether or not they coerced him to, or he did it himself because he knew he was fucked. Probably also true, but I don't think this somehow belies the fact that Donald Trump is acting like the most guilty person ever. In the same way that a lot of this Russia stuff is, it seems like there's at least some sort of connection there. If not, why not release the files? Why not?
I guess
not redact his name out of it
for the FBI. So here's my question: is there something? So my story. So this is my story. Okay, my story is that Trump put a bunch of people in his campaign who who were crazy conspiracy theorists, because that's what MAGA tracks, okay? Yep. They said a bunch of stupid shit about the Epstein shit. When they came into office, these people are literally retarded. If you look at like what Tulsi releases from the DNI, making claims that are contradicted by her own things that she releases, these people are
the
retarded.
Obama evidence.
They don't even read their own shit. Yeah. So the fact that they're now, when confronted with the evidence, you're like, oh fuck, we have nothing, and now they're doing their best to scramble and cover it up. And then the fact
cover up that they have nothing?
Cover up that they have nothing, and that the only stuff they could release would be like flight logs and stuff. But Trump is going to be in those as much as any other person, Bill Clinton or Prince Williams or Andrew or whatever the fuck, or like anybody else. Like all of this, like he's going to be just as like bad as anybody else who's on these flight logs. Is there something in my story that, or is there something in the evidence and the fact pattern that exists? What's like the most difficult to account for thing for me that my story doesn't explain? Because I feel like my story kind of explains it all like really perfectly.
That they would try so hard to redact and block and obstruct and make deals with Ghislaine just because of proximity stuff that we've known for 10 years.
So let's separate these out. So when you say that they would make deals to redact or obstruct, I actually think that's perfectly explained by the fact that Trump knew that at the very least he's in the flight logs. There was that interview, and I know you've seen it.
That's what I'm saying, is that everyone knew this for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. The new stuff would be what's in the files, which is not being released.
There are no files. I don't think there are files to release. I think it's just like investigative stuff that has nothing relevant or important. No, I don't think so.
Well, there's something. What's being redacted? That you think that report is just not true? That the FBI is redacting something out of something? Like what?
My guess is if it was things like flight logs and stuff, things that we've probably already seen. I doubt it. Or maybe interviews with people that mention the name or whatever.
Like already seen, like, obviously it's not already seen, otherwise they wouldn't have to redact it. Everything that we know up until this point, like, I would say 90% of it has been known since at least 2016. I think where it falls apart for me is you've said, like, oh, like, if Trump was in these things, it would have fallen apart. It would have come out. A lot of these accusers, if you look at any of their interviewers, they don't even know who Jeffrey Epstein was until he became a public figure and got arrested. So people that, like, didn't even come out and accuse Trump until he ran for president because either one, they didn't know who he was when he assaulted them at some random party at 2003, or they didn't even know Jeffrey Epstein's last name. They just knew him as, oh, he was Jeff, and he did something to me, and I forgot about it. And then once these figures become more prominent, that is when stuff like this comes out. So it's weird to me that, like, oh, we would have seen it already is, like, kind of the...
So I'm a little bit, well, I understand, but this is not as compelling to me because I didn't know what Epstein looked like until... like I think 2022 when I started researching.
Exactly. No,
but Donald Trump.
Until
but Donald Trump. Everybody in America knew who Donald Trump was. The Apprentice was wildly popular over here. So I think Trump would have been a little bit harder to not recognize. Now I can still.
The accusers came out before 2016. A lot of them came out during 2016 as well. And then I think what's the one that got the assault charge, where it's like civilly liable for rape or whatever. That one was, I think, during the campaign, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. I guess this is what I can't account for. There's too much that doesn't make sense here. So here are the questions that I would have. Okay. So the first question would be, why didn't Biden release anything? Or anybody in his administration release anything? Two would be, why aren't there any leaks whatsoever? I think those would be my two big questions. Why didn't Biden or the Biden DOJ release anything at all about this? And why has nobody in the FBI, nobody's come forward with any additional information at all who's actually seen anything? It's always just like loonies, yeah.
I mean, that's a good example, but, like, has anyone in the Biden, Obama, or any of these administrations, specifically Democratic administrations, released government documents to try to smear a campaign? I don't know of any examples of this, let alone in the Epstein case. I know, like, the closest thing I can think of is maybe, like, the Steele dossier, but, like, this doesn't seem like a thing that Democratic presidents do, period.
Well, wait, hold on, wait. Are we, wait, well, I'm not talking about just smearing. I'm saying, like, my understanding is when we talk about the Epstein files, we're saying there's stuff that's, like, prosecutable in there, no?
Sure, but, like, I mean, there's prosecutable stuff for Donald Trump, like, in the Russia stuff. There's prosecutable,
which they tried to prosecute him for, right?
Right, and it never really went anywhere. And they either said, "Hey, like, this is not going anywhere. This is not worth it."
There was the huge Jan 6 indictment from Jack Smith, and he got impeached twice.
Yeah.
So, like, they do pursue those things, but there was nothing ever pursued or mentioned about Epstein at all.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying is, like, I don't know if there's sufficient evidence to show that, like, oh, they saw this as a kill shot and didn't release it, which in your story doesn't make any sense. If not, they saw that this was not going to benefit our campaign whatsoever to try to prosecute them on these things that, ostensibly either aren't chargeable or there's not enough evidence there, or the extent to which they even have his name in the files is, like what you said, what we already know. Okay, his name's in the flight logs. Oh, he visited the island or whatever. The point I'm trying to say is, how can that be the defense of, well, therefore there's nothing implicating whatsoever? If you're saying there's nothing criminal, like, oh, Donald Trump raped a person, here's the picture of him doing it, yeah, probably not. I doubt that would be, like, in a file somewhere that, like, every single person is sitting on when the most powerful person in the world is out there, like, and they're like, yeah, like, we have 50 employees who looked at this photo of him doing it and we didn't release it. Yeah, probably not. But are there files of him showing even deeper connections to him? I don't understand how they would just put all this effort into covering it up, just telling everyone to stop talking about it, telling people to, like, redact the names, but not because he's implicated in some way that makes it more of a tie to Epstein, rather because there's nothing and he just doesn't.
Oh, no, wait, hold on. Okay. Or maybe we don't necessarily disagree. There's probably stuff that, like, ties him more to Epstein. That wouldn't surprise me. There's probably stuff that ties everybody more to Epstein if they're interviewing people around him and everything else. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm almost sure there is. But I think that I'm actually taking him at face value when he says, well, not at face value because I don't think he exactly says himself, but there's that really famous interview where they were like, would you release the JFK files? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, would you release the fucking moon landing? I don't know, whatever else. So, like, 3 things. And then they get to the Epstein thing. He's like, would you release the Epstein? And he's like, well, for that one, I'm not sure because there might be a lot of innocent people in there who are actually negatively impacted. Like, my guess is he's probably did have more ties, or there are probably people that were interviewed around Mar-a-Lago that mentioned Trump and Epstein being friends or something like that. I'm sure that those things probably exist. But I don't think any of it is, like, criminally indictable. I think they should release it for the lulz at this point, but I don't think there's, like, a huge, like, criminal thing or that you're going to get any deeper there, because I feel like like people hated him enough that if that was there, they would have looked for it, right? That was the whole issue with.
No, if there's specific evidence of, like I said, like if there's like a blackmail list, which, like you said, like there's probably not some like book of people having sex with children, because Epstein would have leveraged that before ever going to jail. But I mean, obviously, in this conspiracy, there could have been a way they got ahead of it. They found his dead man switch. Who knows? It's all speculation. The point I'm trying to say is like there's obviously something where a guilty person is covering something up.
No, I disagree with that guilty. I don't like the guilty thing, right?
Okay, maybe not guilty of a crime that they can prove by releasing the Epstein files, because if there was criminal charges in here, that the people would have released it. What I'm saying
I think
is
there's stuff that makes you
know.
Yeah, but it could just be stuff that makes you look bad, right? That's not necessarily indicative of any guilt whatsoever, right? Like, what if it was the case that what if you had no idea, but you were like playing at a casino and like Jeffrey Epstein happened to be at your fucking poker table and you played like 6 hours of poker with him like the day before he went to fuck some kid, and in the FBI investigation files they noted like, oh, these people spent like a lot of time on that day, and then they do their homework and they research like, oh, this guy didn't even know who Epstein was, or this guy just chatted with him or he had no connection. Like,
sounds like that would not implicate him, would exonerate him, rather than like we already know they were very good friends,
hold on,
right?
It wouldn't exonerate anybody. If you wanted to dig through shit and look at every connection, people would fly. We should look at how many people are going on Bill Clinton saying that he had all these ties to Epstein because they've stretched like crazy anything that shows up related to Bill and Epstein. I think that I'm not trying to defend Trump. Just to get back to what we're the point on is that like I just don't think there's anything ultra incriminating. If you want to say there's like embarrassing stuff in there that would just look bad, sure, but I don't think any of it is like criminal malfeasance or anything that like shows like wrongdoings. It'll just be more shitty, stupid stuff that makes them look bad.
I mean, I can agree that there's probably not like damning video, picture, or even like written names in a book like, here's the list of people I made fuck kids. Like that stuff probably doesn't exist in such an obvious way. But I guess my issue is like the way that you're doing this plausible deniability seems kind of incongruent, one with the Russiagate thing, but also even with just like of the stuff that's come out of the Epstein case. Like, for example, we didn't know until very recently, this might have existed but no one had found it yet, that he had sent that birthday letter that was like very, very implicating, like, young women.
It wasn't implicating, sort of right? It was maybe
It doesn't prove criminal intent. It's just like, okay, if you were fucking kids with this guy, this kind of checks out, but obviously you can post hoc rationalize anything with any conspiracy.
Yeah.
The problem I'm saying is that came out much, much, much later. That is something that an Epstein accuser or a Donald Trump conspiracy person would have had come out. And yet it's been, 20 years since that happened? Maybe 15 years since that happened. And like that just now came out. Why now? Like, why is it not possible that there's still a good chunk of stuff that's pointing to this person at least having 5 more minutes. Yeah, connections with this person who claims to be his best friends, trafficked women, says that he likes them on the younger side.
So like,
this,
is that
it doesn't
is that possible?
My credulity that much.
That could be possible. The only problem then is how would I account for Trump not telling Pam Bondi, you need to kill everything about this and never talk about this again? If Trump knew that stuff was out there, we've already seen, especially because we can point to historic behavior, Trump controls his employees as much as he can to make them obstruct justice, break the law, do whatever he needs to cover his own ass. In his first term, it was harder to do that because he didn't realize how illegal. He didn't realize how illegal the shit he was going to do. In this term, Pam Bondi is literally his fucking center testicle. She will do whatever the fuck possible. If Trump knew there's incriminating stuff out there, why would Trump tell Bondi or allow Bondi to go on mainstream media and say, here's part 1 of the Epstein files, we're going to release everything, guys? Like, I don't think that would ever happen.
It's one of those things where I do think this is the first time the MAGA movement has actually shot themselves in the foot, where they kind of campaigned and had this whole base of QAnon people that believe this is this is the one time we almost saw a sever in the MAGA base, because this was their like issue. It's, the Democrats are pedophiles. There's a pedophile ring. And he knows he can't just make this go away with like a word to one person. The people in his cabinet, as you said, like the Dan Bongino's and the Kash Patel, maybe they'll run cover, but they won't just like burn these files, I guess. It seems as if it's...
So I'm just curious. So I guess just back to my fact pattern. Is there a thing that my story can't neatly explain, I guess, with the fact pattern we had? Or what do you think is like the most contentious fact that I have a hard time explaining with the way that I understand it?
The fact that all of the circumstances around this Epstein case are only because all of the action, all the effort put in, all of the redactions, all the Ghislaine Maxwell talkings, all of this is only because there's some stuff in there that just kind of looks embarrassing, just does not check out to me.
Why can't I just say that my story is Donald Trump had a lot of fucking crazies around him because of the MAGA shit, who all hyped up a conspiracy. They got into the office hoping a conspiracy was there. There was none there. Trump's actually been fairly consistent when he was getting elected, he said, like, I don't know if I'd release Epstein files. There might be a lot of innocent people in there. And now they've, like you said, they've shot themselves in the foot, except it was on overhyping and completely under-delivering on finding anything there. Like, I don't know. I feel like I think that's a pretty clean explanation.
Because if there was truly nothing implicating whatsoever, I think it wouldn't be that big a deal to release them and just say, look, there's nothing in here. Because they kind of did that with, like, the Wave 1, and no one was really upset about it.
Wait. Wave 1 was all stuff we already knew. In
exactly.
fact, they even released stuff that was redacted, that was more redacted, I think, than files we already had.
Yeah, they even extra redacted it. And that's what I'm saying is, like, if it was so simple as, hey, this is embarrassing that we hyped this up and there's nothing there, I think they would still release stuff instead of coming out publicly and saying, actually, there's nothing here and you don't have to worry about it.
Wait. Why would you release stuff, though, that would just make Trump look bad?
Why would it make him look bad?
Hold on. Are you acknowledging that there are completely, as much as I hate to say this with Trump, that there are completely innocuous ways that him and Epstein could have connected that would make him look bad if all of that was, like, publicly revealed?
What beyond what we already know, like the fact that Epstein says he was his best friend? That's what I'm saying is, like, what would you release that isn't already in the zeitgeist of
there
things
could be
we've known for
more
15 years?
They could be more parties they attended, more conversations they had, more people commenting on conversations or the relationships from other people. Like, there could be a ton of stuff. These were investigators who had subpoena power, right? They could have uncovered a ton of shit.
This makes him look bad, and stuff like this is leaking constantly. I mean, again, there was, like, a new footage of him at a new party with Epstein that, like, we hadn't seen before, but, like, none of this is like the spear smoking gun that is all wavering the MAGA base. So
but it all looks bad to him, right?
Why he would go to such lengths to cover up, like, even if it was like, oh, like, hey, I was at 50 different parties with him, and here's the guest list of every single one. Like, I don't think this is going to cause the MAGA base, who is, like, grasping at every single possible straw to defend anything he's doing. I've even seen them go so far as to say, you know what, hey, it's only a phebophilia or whatever. Like, it's, hey, she knew what she was doing. Why that would be the thing he goes to such lengths to cover up, and not something a little more incriminating, given that they were best friends and they both liked women on the younger side, according to Trump.
I mean, so what would be the incentive if my story were true? What would be the incentive for him to release everything and not just try to shoo it under the carpet until it goes away and focus on, like, this weird Obama Russiagate thing?
The incentive not to do it if there was nothing implicating in there?
Like, let's say that my story is the one that I think is true, that now they're kind of fucked because
I don't think there would be a good incentive. I think in the same way that Obama finally gave in and was like, here's my fucking birth certificate, there's nothing here, you idiot. Like, I think he would actually be benefited from doing that. Like, hey, we checked it out and I have nothing to do with this, and also this is all we have on it. Here we go. Now let's move on to the economy, or whatever he kept trying to say in these meetings. I think he would benefit from that if there was nothing that made him look worse. But I think there's a lot that makes him look a lot worse, which is why he's going to such lengths to.
What was the point of doing the Ghislaine Maxwell thing then? In your story, or why do you think
in my story or in your story?
Yeah, well, in my story, I would say they wanted to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell because they were praying to God they could get anything embarrassing about any other figure to talk to her, but they couldn't come up with anything. What, in your version, what are they doing that for?
In my version is, hey, Ghislaine, we know that you and Epstein were partners, and Epstein was best friends with Donald Trump, so you have very deep knowledge of all the things he did. Don't say anything, and we'll move you to this other nicer prison or commute your sentence. That seems a lot more obvious to me, other than, hey, pretty please, like, give us some dirt on someone, and if you don't have it, we'll still commute your sentence and move you to a nicer prison. Because, like, that makes less sense to me.
Did they commute her sentence?
I think it's like, what, she's going to be on, like, work release or something soon, and
there's that thing came out that was, like, marked on a thing. I don't know if that's actually happening or not. I did see that.
Well, she's already in a less dire situation than she was.
Yeah, she did get
a few months ago.
Yeah, she did get moved to that. Okay. I have to agree with that. But it just seems like, I don't know. I just don't know what more hardcore incriminating stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my story counts for everything. That's how I feel. But
Last word, soy pill. And,
I will say. Wait, real quick before you start. Like, this is a thing that, like, I'm like the subject matter. What are we talking about exactly? We're talking about what are the chances that Trump is completely and totally innocent of something bad. So I'm like probably 60% on that. That's just where my feeling is. But, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that could come out that would change my mind. So, for instance, there could be a whole bunch of stuff in there that doesn't rise to the level of probable cause. Or it could be that his AG Barr back then and his investigators back then were maybe playing a little bit more fast and loose related to Trump stuff because they didn't know if they could charge him with a crime while they were investigating Epstein, while he was president. That's possible. Like, there is a lot of stuff that could come out that would change my mind on it. Like, I'm not like, it's impossible that they're trying to cover up that he's secretly. I'm not saying that. I think, like, it's possible. I just don't see any, like, compelling reason to super believe that. That's just so you understand the strength of my conviction on that. Yeah.
No, I totally understand the status quo, sort of. And this is not. I'm not saying this is pejorative. I learned to appreciate the status quo and the doubt of conspiracies from JJ McCullough. But it's just one of those. Okay, this is, if this is, as you say, just a fuck up of, hey, there was really nothing else to release there. This is the worst possible way you could go about trying to cover it up or sweep it under the rug. It just seems like there's at least a little more than what we've seen here. But like you said, it could be nothing. I don't have any evidence other than it's just would be the most ridiculous set of circumstances to happen in and of themselves. Okay. Final word is you should probably get on Luprin, dude. There's a lot of crazy stuff coming out, and I keep having to answer for it for some reason.
What is Luprin?
I don't know what Luprin is.
Okay.
What is Luprin? I'm just really
That's the chemical castration.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
All right.
I wouldn't be able to
conversation.
fuck
Had a
your
good
mom
time.
anymore if I did that, but thanks. Have fun.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Good night.
Okay, $20 from what's his face? Soul Heredit to say, question for Destiny. Would you debate Manar reports on politics or religion? He considers himself the king of debates, and he's debated tomfoolery and Andrew Wilson.
On politics and religion? Maybe. I don't really like super broad, nebulous debate topics. I'm a little bit more policy focused or discrete event focused. Having super broad, is religion good or bad for society? I'm just not as interested in those, I guess. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, let's keep them coming. You're live. What do you got?
What's up? Hello,
Hi.
Destiny.
Hi.
You good?
I'm so good.
Yeah, so, are you still an anti-theist or you're an atheist?
I'm an atheist.
Wait, but because in 2022 you were an anti-theist, you were anti-religion.
Sure, it depends on how upset I am at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so why are you an atheist?
'Cause I don't believe in God.
Now, I know that you don't believe in God, but what's the reasoning behind it? Why
Well, I don't think I need reasoning to not believe in him. I think I need reasoning to believe in him. I don't think there's any compelling evidence to believe in a higher power.
No, I think that you you have to use reasoning to not believe.
I don't think so.
Right.
I think you start every position as not believing in a thing, and then you need evidence to believe in the thing. And I don't think there's any compelling evidence to believe in the thing.
Wait, what? You don't start at not believing. You start with basic rational intuition.
Do you
So
believe
absence of evidence, not evidence of absence.
Do you believe in the?
So, yeah.
Do you think the universe of Star Trek is real?
No, I don't.
Why? How did you reason your way to that?
Because we have direct defeaters. It's non-fiction without identified authors.
Why it can't be?
With
Why
identified
can't it be?
authors.
Well, I mean, doesn't the Bible have identified authors?
No, I'm not Christian.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, so far as I've investigated the evidence, I don't think there's a compelling reason to believe in God, so I don't believe in any God. It's fiction to me, just the same way as Star Trek or The Matrix or anything else.
Oh, your claim that no compelling evidence is vague. You have to name the strongest arguments and
No, I absolutely don't. I don't need to. I would be a non-believer on basically any subject matter that somebody hasn't presented me a ton of. I would say, I probably don't think that's true. If it's anything I've investigated at all, and I don't think I would need to investigate every single piece of evidence to know if I don't believe in a thing or not.
So you believe that the burden is only on theism?
They're generally the ones making the claim. Yeah.
All right. So you believe that you have a neutral skepticism?
No, it's probably shaded a little bit more on the negative. Rather than saying I'm neutral on it, I'd be more willing to say it's false, just because I had a religious upbringing and I've done a little bit of religious investigation, and I'm not content with anything I find there. So probably a little bit less than neutral, worse than neutral.
All right. So what do you think of religion? What's your stance on religion?
That's a very broad question. I don't know what the question.
Okay. Thank you for calling in. We're gonna be.
Could I right now? Could I quickly give an argument for theism?
Yeah, do it. Let him do it. Wait, go.
All right. So my main argument for theism is the contingency that contingent things exist, and an infinite regress of explanations can't terminate in more contingents. So a necessary non-contingent cause explains why anything exists at all.
Why does there have to be a necessary non-contingent cause?
Why must there be a necessary non-contingent? Because if every explanation is contingent, you either get an infinite regress that never explains why there's anything rather than nothing.
Is God an infinite regress?
Is God an infinite regress?
Because my next question is going to be, if I can't have a non-contingent universe, why can you have a non-contingent God?
But I don't think that God is an infinite reject.
Yeah, but why
I
can't
don't
my
think
universe,
regress.
why can you have a non-contingent God, but I can't have a non-contingent universe?
Because a pure contingent chain never answers why anything at all, so you need a terminus that exists by necessity to halt regress.
Why do you need it? Why do I need a terminus for the universe, but you don't need a terminus for God?
Okay. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, you can send him up.
Yep.
So sorry, my mic was muted, but because let me answer your question really quick. Because the universe is contingent and changeable, while God is.
Wait. Why are you allowed to say that? Why are you allowed to do a special pleading for God and properties of God? Why can't I make the same pleading for my universe and say my universe is actually had a non-contingent start or is infinite and time started at the Big Bang? But you're allowed to make a special pleading for God and say he doesn't.
It's not special pleading. It's not special pleading if it's argued from a principle distinction.
What's your proof that God is non-contingent and can function that way?
Logic.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for calling in, buddy.
Yeah.
And have a great night. And we'll do 2 more, I think. So if you're the strongest soldier back there, okay, and you really want your chance, DM me, let me know, okay? We're going to go with vibes here. We're going to just randomize this a little bit. And we're going to choose you. Hello.
Oh boy, here I am. What's going on?
Hi.
Nothing much.
Let's see here now. What are some of the topics you want to talk about? Or am I the one that oh, I
You don't
picked.
got
Okay.
one? We're going to
I do have one with Destiny. What's your opinion on appealing to moderate Republicans in order to win elections?
Cringe.
Cringe? Why?
Because I don't want Republicans to vote for Democrats. I want Democrats to vote for Democrats.
But if you want Democrats to win, right?
Yeah.
So what does it matter who votes for them as long as they win?
Because the chance of appealing to the opposite party is like definitionally not the point of a party. The party is to appeal to the party.
Well, your goal isn't to appeal to the opposite party. Your goal is to take away people from that party to your own party by appealing to them.
I think that you do that through policy. I feel like the political strategy for messaging is to show your base that you will enact your policy, and then the goal for converting people is to show that your policy works. But I don't think you try to appeal to the other party during an election cycle. You try to turn out your own base.
Right. So you don't think there's any benefit at all to appealing to more moderate Republicans?
I mean, there might be elements or aspects of the political structure to do it. Like there's a ton of different political actors, right? You've got like the president, you've got lawmakers, you've got activists, you've got staffers, you've got YouTubers. Like there's a whole bunch of different people. Maybe some of them could appeal to moderate Republicans, sure. But I don't think the party as a whole should be fixated on that now.
I guess that was really the only thing I wanted to ask you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
fun
thank you
times.
for calling in. Have
Yeah.
a great day.
You too.
Okay, we're going to randomize, we're going to use old Magic 8 Ball. Okay? We're going to bring in...
Think it
Gentlemen.
didn't. Oh, what?
Oh.
the fuck?
Hi, you're live.
Hey, what's up? I was just arguing
Hi.
backstage about COVID.
Do you have anything to say to Destiny? If not, we're going to switch you out.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Hi, Destiny. Bye,
Hi.
Destiny.
Wait, what were you arguing about COVID?
I was just arguing in favor that it was probably natural with DG.
Oh.
DG would probably argue up here.
Okay.
Should drag him in. Bye-bye.
Okay. Let's try. Do you have anything for Destiny?
Yeah, Destiny.
What's up?
Back when you were kind of beefing a little bit with Econoboy, you said something about the filibuster. You said that people who want to get rid of the filibuster are just want to like a dictatorship. Do you actually believe that, or was that kind of like hyperbole?
I don't know. I'd probably just see the context of the argument. I don't think necessarily getting rid of the filibuster means your dictatorship, but I feel like sometimes people want to break too much of the system to get their political agenda passed, and it probably wouldn't be good. I think the filibuster is probably important for making sure we're not just like passing crazy legislation and then taking it back every single election cycle. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that the filibuster has been much more useful for the Republicans than people who actually want to get stuff done. And what I mean by that is that the Republicans are perfectly happy with a government that doesn't really do much, and the Democrats actually want to do stuff. We want to do things like pass student loan forgiveness, or at least reform student loans. We want to do universal health care or public option and stuff like that. And having the filibuster is a much greater tool for obstructionists and like Republicans to be able to stop us from doing those things, which then makes us look bad. And it discourages voter turnout because a lot of people feel like, what's the point? We don't really get what we want anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a broader conversation to have. So one thing I don't like is I feel like right now the MAGA Republican Party is literally a catastrophic, toxic, destructive aspect of our government. And I don't think that we should ever try to model a government around incorporating those people into the government. If you have a party whose literal goal is to just obstruct, and then to just like fuck around in any way possible, trying to design a system around that type of person is literally impossible. Like imagine making rules, for how to play a board game when you're trying to play board games with, gorillas that just fling shit all over the place. It's just not possible. It doesn't make any sense to do so. So, I don't even necessarily agree with. I understand what you're saying in terms of like they just want to obstruct. They don't want to do anything with government. But clearly, we've now seen that apparently Republicans want to do all sorts of things with government. They want to buy parts of corporations. They want to, deploy the fucking National Guard. I guess everywhere that Trump looks on a map. They want to rename, places to the Gulf of America, whatever. Like apparently, there's all sorts of fun things. They want to ban porn everywhere. They want to ban abortion as much as they can. Like they want to do all sorts of things with the government. And yeah, I don't know. The idea of just getting rid of the filibuster to try to account for the current insanity that is the Republican Party, I just think is not a good idea. There might be like a good discussion about repealing the filibuster. I just haven't necessarily heard the most convincing argument. And I like the idea of having to have 60 senators on board with passing legislation. Like it feels better to me that we're kind of coming to some kind of consensus. We just have to leave the crazy world we're at right now, where just the MAGA is just an actual cancerous rot in the country that's destroying our ability to govern.
Yeah, well, I think that you say that they are happy, they have things that they want to do. I don't think that they really go into these things with these ideas, because I think that MAGA would be perfectly happy either way, whatever Trump does, whether he actually gets rid of the migrants or not gets rid of the migrants. Most of MAGA is going to still stick by him, and they are also perfectly happy doing it by executive orders, because they, at the end of the day, they don't actually care if the Democrat gets in and all of the ICE agents disappear from the streets. It's not like a thing that they actually care about. So I don't know how much they actually care about that. But also, I'm not really trying to appeal to MAGA with this. I'm trying to appeal to even the middle. I think that one of the things that you would hear often from people is from the uneducated, the less educated on politics, is that yes, these things, he's got a lot of rough edges, but he's getting shit done, and that's the way they feel. And I think that if we
but if that was true, Biden would have had such a better outlook, right? That motherfucker got an ungodly amount of legislation passed, but they didn't. Voters didn't give him any credit for it.
Yeah, he got legislation passed, but he's not it seems to me like people don't really care about whether they're getting stuff done through legislation or through executive action. And I'm not saying that the Democrats should just start doing executive action, because I do like the idea that we have a legislative branch that does the lawmaking, but I think that it would help the Democrats give their people the feeling that we are getting stuff done if we are actually able to get stuff done. And I think that even with 51 or 50 plus the vice president, we are still coming to a consensus, because if Democrats have 50 representatives in the Senate, that's still 55% of the population that they're representing. So it's not even like it's a 50-50 split for us.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I feel like it'll be too swingy back and forth. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe that wouldn't happen, but yeah, it's not I'm not a huge filibuster simp. But I just slightly lean in favor of keeping it. Yeah.
Okay. One more thing on that. It's possible that it is.
We're gonna cycle out.
Yeah, it's possible that it could be swingy back and forth, but I also believe that Democratic policy when people actually sit there and think about it, or they see it implemented versus Republican policy and Republicans taking popular things away, I believe that when you have when the people tend to support the Democrats on those things, and it would be hard for Republicans to take just things away without electoral consequence.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. Americans are fucking retarded, and especially the ones that watch Fox News, right? Like these motherfuckers are literally giving away these massive child tax credits from Biden and shit. Like you saw the Care County, the fucking swim team or whatever, when these guys were going to the judge and were literally begging them not to spend the $5 million that they had sitting in their fucking Wells Fargo account because they were so afraid that Biden and the Dementors would show up to steal their ranches and horses from them. Like people are fucking retarded. I think the Democrats have to work better on like actually messaging. I think that's the more important fight to happen, because Republicans can literally fucking say anything and Fox News viewers will believe it. Like if you tell them that the economy's getting better, they will literally just believe that, absent any other fucking evidence. It's fucking wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I partly agree with that. All right. Have a good night.
Thanks for calling in, buddy. Okay. We're going rapid fire.
Okay. Quick. I've got to leave. I've got a headache and I'm grumpy. Hi. What's up?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep. What you got?
So I think you need to lock way harder into the Alien Enemies Act stuff. Have you? There was that case named JGG versus Trump. Have you read the contempt thing from Boasberg?
No, but didn't they dump? Isn't that dumped now? Basically, I thought that was gone.
It got kicked down because habeas wasn't the right route, but that's kind of bullshit. But it's still being litigated, I think, under a different name because they all just kind of filed habeas stuff. But like,
I'm not talking about the case. I'm talking about the contempt in particular, that contempt charge. I thought that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Eliminated. Yeah, I'm sure it's also being litigated. Yeah, the Alien Enemies Act is fucking ridiculous, but nobody even knows what the fuck it is or what it means. So yeah.
So I remember. Listen, one of my I go back to the one Twitter space where you were like, you went into it saying like every conservative needs to answer to J6.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Alien Enemies Act is like comparably bad and a comparable wormhole, and I think you really need to lock into it because like the amount of there are still hundreds of people in a foreign prison being tortured right now.
Yeah. But I mean, like, there's so many, like, I would argue that, I think that is really bad. I agree. It's crazy. But I would argue there's one thing that's even worse, though, and people just skim over it, is the fact that our president is unilaterally conducting world economic policy right now by arbitrarily declaring emergencies everywhere. The fact that, like, if you would have said prior to this administration that the president of the United States is going to enact a 10% tariff on the entire world, people would laugh at you at how fucking retardedly doomsayer you're being. And now we've just accepted that we can swing anywhere from 10 to 145% tariffs on whatever fucking country every single day, and he's doing it off the backs of like, oh, there's an emergency, haha, and the deployment of the National Guard. Is like, I agree with you, it's bad. How do you fix it on one thing? Like, there's so much shit that's just fucking unbelievable. I don't know. Listen, go to the range practice in video game. Just kidding. I agree with you. It's really fucked. It's really bad. I do agree though. That is like really crazy that we're deporting people to other countries using a subversive like due process by invoking an act that says that we're basically at war with another country that I don't remember.
We didn't even that I think is too charitable of a reading. Like we didn't even adhere, like the problem wasn't that we just like expedited the due process of the people being deported. It's that the expedited due process that they're allotted under the Alien Enemies Act, they didn't even meet that bar. Like the bar is literally just having any ability at all to contest whether you're an alien enemy, and they didn't even meet that.
Sure.
They didn't give them like any opportunity. I think like
I remember
a lot of the rhetoric
filing because the issue was that like for the past invocations of this, it was very easy to just see who was like like Japanese or whatever for internment can't stop.
Yeah, because they had a hearing board.
Yeah. But for the for this stuff, obviously it's way more contentious because they're trying to say like MS-13 is and it's like, well, how do you figure that out? It's like, well, yeah, they released that guide. I remember.
Right.
Yeah, it's not good. It's bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just recommend if you have any
last thing, then we're gonna.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, if you have any free time, I would recommend reading the Boasberg contempt thing because even though it's probably dead in the water, it outlays a lot of the really fucking crazy stuff that happened in that particular case, and it's like a really really good like well-rounded argument as to how that hits because I think even people on the left like underrepresent just how bad the AEA stuff is.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you again. Last one. You're the last one. What do you got?
Hi, Destiny. I wanted to know why aren't you like more violent in general?
Violent?
Yeah, like you have all the reasons to be like bloodthirsty, and apart from Twitter, I don't see you like engaging in that.
I feel like violence is a very high risk, low reward. There's a huge negative. There's a massive downside and very low upside to being violent.
But like, I don't know. I think it brings a lot more audience, and also you can make people understand what you mean better. I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think some dude just did that outside of a church in Minneapolis 2 days ago.
I don't mean physically violent. I mean more like debate violence, like point out.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're in a way different.
Way different thing. I was
Sorry.
about to
That's
be like,
the,
what are we
I don't
doing
know if
here?
there's an ESL moment, or that would be good to explain. Sorry. I don't know. I try to match tone with people, basically. I just go back and forth on that. But hopefully, when we get closer to midterms, if more large conservatives are willing to duke it out, or like on this Charlie Kirk tour stuff coming up, maybe I could be more aggressive there. But I mean, especially like in spaces like here, like I'm on a Wix platform, I'm not going to bring people on and start fucking screaming at them or whatever. So, yeah. But I try to match energy as best I can.
Like, I understand here, but I mean more like, for example, Asmongold. I think you could reach Asmongold by.
I've been pretty brutal and aggressive, so much so that everybody screams at me for being too mean to Asmongold. So I feel like I've been pretty big in that direction.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
anything else?
I'll keep it in mind, though. I love you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, Destiny, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, and I hope you feel better and have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Oh, also, major shout out. I saw that you hosted a debate where it was really crazy. I think Doobie was getting smashed by Peach and Zip Zip. Did you see that? Where he got absolutely fucking embarrassed and humiliated. Yeah, it was probably one of the worst performances I've ever seen of any person in my entire life. I'm not sure. Do you know if Doobie's like special needs or?
If you want to debate Doobie, I can set it up.
No, because I know that he's really upset with you for platforming me, and he thinks that that's like a really bad thing, and he tries to do a whole bunch of weird, creepy, like, stuff in the background to influence people. But you know what, Wick? Good on you for standing on principle. I think you're a good guy. I congratulate you for that. Even when there are creepy, weirdo fucks in the background who own insurance companies and shit that do kind of weird stuff to try to pressure people to do stuff. I think it's really weird and creepy. So good for you, Wick. Okay, I love you. I'm gonna go to sleep because I've got a headache. Stay safe. Be careful.
Bye-bye.
All right, I have a headache. I love you guys. It's been fun. Stay safe. Be careful. Connections. Ugh, my head hurts. Yeah, fuck you. Okay, be careful. Rip one. Stay safe. Don't die. Never kill yourself.